What's up mga Ka-Investa U? Welcome back to the program. And of course, this is one of the lessons na talagang inaabangan ng lahat. So I hope you are ready for this very action-packed lesson. So we have two educators for today, si Paulo Toma Cruz, and our guest educator is Matt Flores from Open Journal. So I hope you guys are ready and excited to learn about the indicators of the stock market.
Alright, what's up everyone? Right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, kung nasan ka man sa mundo. Kung dito ka sa Pilipinas, kung OFW ka, or wherever you are, right, hello. Thank you sa co-educator ko for the wonderful introduction again. Right, so guys, as you already know, for this lesson, we're going to be tackling yung mga technical indicators. So quick recap lang, ano na ba yung mga alam natin sa technical analysis? So, sa first lesson, di ba, naturo na yung basic TA. Ako, tsaka si Joanne, we already talked about ano yung technical analysis, ano yung candlesticks, ano yung support resistance, yung understanding price structure, ano yung role reversal, breakout, breakdown, all that. Right? And then we learned about, ano nga ba yung next, chart patterns, di ba, na you don't need naman to memorize, but we need to understand the supply and demand dynamics at hand during pattern formation. And then, the previous TA lesson prior to this was something that can, ayun tama, yung creating a watch list and trading plan. Para may, kasi yung mga naturo na prior to that lesson, mga actionable items yun eh. So siningit namin yung lesson na yun so that pwede nyo na gamitin in the proper way. And now, I'm sure inaabangan to, especially sa mga baguhan pa lang dyan, we're going to be talking about technical indicators. Diba? So the first indicator na I want, well, quick overview lang pala, ano ba yung tinatawag yung mga technical indicators. Basically, these are parang additional signals, diba, that can help us in our trading, additional tools we can use to analyze yung mga stocks, diba? Aside from yung price structure na naturo ko na. Diba? So, ito yung mga, if narinig nyo, mga volume, moving averages, RSI, MACD, ADX, yung mga ganun na indicators natin. So, first, the first lesson or the first indicator I want to teach everyone is how to read volume. Diba? If you've been in the market for a while, I mean, volume, this is probably the first thing we're gonna know because it's a chart na kaagad. Diba? And if a lot of people like to ask, right, what's my favorite indicator? So, is it RSI? Is it MA? Is it MACD? Is it stochastics? Is it Ichimoku? Is it Fibonacci? Ano ba yan, boss? And not one ever mentioned, boss, in the options, yung volume. And actually, volume is my favorite indicator. If I were only to use one indicator for the rest of my life, what would it be? It would be volume for sure. Why? Because a hallmark of a great trader, right, is someone who knows how to read volume the right way. There's something said by William O'Neill, Mark Minervini, David Ryan. Diba? Those guys don't use, I can't speak for them, right? But all I know is volume is a big part of their trading, strategies, diba? And these guys are market wizards. These guys are momentum masters. These guys are some of the best traders of our lifetime. And the fact na they took volume seriously, I also took it very seriously as well. So guys, again, just to set expectation, baka uminom lang ako ng tubig kasi alam niyo na papaoso ka agad. So game. So ano ba yung mga uses ng volume? First is as a confirmation of a breakout. So this is something a lot of us may already know. So just to show you guys a few examples. Here we have ditto, right? From an inverse head and shoulders. Remember the pattern? When it broke out of the neckline, made a 33% move. What was it accompanied by? It was accompanied by high volume. Right? So as we can see, above average, besides above this blue level, yung parang tubig, that's a 20-day moving average or that's a 20-day average of the volume. That means it's above average and malakas yung demand. And as you already know from the previous lessons, when you see breakouts, you want to see above average volume or high volume, diba? Because that says na grabe yung demand. We need demand we need high demand for prices to go up, diba? Because again, the only way for prices to go up is kapag maraming buyers. And this signals na maraming buyers and malaki yung potential for a new trend on the upside. Diba? So again, we have volume coming in here, and when it followed through higher, there was more volume coming in. Right? And then here's another example. We already know this, diba? Si Holcim. So Holcim, after making a huge move, it consolidated again, Darvas box or flat base or whatever you want to call it. And then it gave us low volume consolidation, what you want to see, and again, high volume breakout. Diba? So bakit nga ba gusto natin in the first place na mataas yung volume besides sa demand? Diba? Marami nagtatanong, boss, how can we avoid fake outs? One way is to look at the volume. Diba? It's not always, right, sure ball, but more likely than not, when the volume is high, like sa tipong sa umaga pa lang sa average levels na, we can safely assume that, okay, mukhang malakas yung move na to, mataas yung value traded, etc. Nasa most active, di naman siya blue chip, pero nasa most active, tapos nag-breakout, we can say na there's a high probability, especially if the market's good for that day, na tumuloy yung breakout, na maging successful. And that's what happened dito kay Holcim. So yun, then after that, it made a huge move, 58% in about 2 to 3 weeks. Right? So again, volume confirms the breakout. So it doesn't make it sureable, but it from a probabilistic point of view, mas mataas na yung chance na mag-start siya ng bagong trend on the upside. Here's another example. We have Ace X, again, breaking out of this very long consolidation. I believe this was also a 52-week high breakout. So yan, we can see volume, grabe. Even if we zoom out, sobrang iba yung volume on that day. And that was just a signal of what was to come. Diba? Kung bigger picture, parang maliit na lang yung volume na yun, no? Right? But it cost 171% move, again, about 2 to 3 weeks. So, grabe. Laki ng move na to. Well, it ended in a huge rejection candle, no? But overall, if you were able to sell, right, near 12, 13, laki ng return mo, more than 100%. Assuming nabili mo sa 5 pesos. Here we have now. Hindi to si now na recent, no? This was now back in late 2017, early 2018. Again, we had a base. Diba? Wala mo siyang exact pattern na tawagin. You can call it a Darvas box, you can call it whatever you want. But basically, there was a consolidation. And then on the breakout, right? I don't know if this was a ceiling, but sobrang lakas, accompanied by super high volume na obviously above average. And that was just the beginning, right? Of a soon to come na 20-point move, of a soon to come 546% move on the upside. Right? So again, volume confirms the breakout. So here's an example naman, US stock naman, pakita ko. Again, the volume concept applies whether it's the local market, the global markets. So anong pattern nakikita natin kung naalala nyo pa? Right? So the pattern we're seeing, if you said cup with handle, you're correct. So here we have a cup, we have a handle. Then on the breakout of the handles, a 56 to 60 area, which is also an all-time high breakout. And again, for trading all-time high breakouts, you want to have aggressive price targets, or at least you want to hold it for a bigger move. So as you can see here, 2 days above average volume, right? On the breakout and the follow-through day, ganda ng volume, and that was just, the start of 185% move on the upside. So yun, grabe, sobrang solid. So that's the use of volume when it comes to breakout trades. But now it can also actually be a confirmation of a breakdown, right? Sorry, pumiyok na ako. So, I believe yung mukha ko sa upper right na screen, no? So baka naharangan lang, baka ayusin lang sa post-edit. But as we can see here, si Ditto, after making a huge move on the upside, right, it consolidated sa may 8. As you already know sa previous lessons, this is a historical resistance, and eventually, nag-breakdown siya. Now, how can we confirm na, baka hindi na siya, or ano ba yung use ng volume at this point? Baliktad lang. So sa una, confirmation of breakout. Dito, confirmation of breakdown. So as you can see, it broke down. Huge. Grabe yung breakdown to. I think it was down 15% for the day at this point. Then above average volume. And eventually, that was the beginning of the end for at least now, okay, dito. Diba? Na never na siya nakabawi above that level again. And, all the way through the market crash, it went all the way to piso. I believe now it's at above 4 levels again. But yun, umabot siya down negative 86% after that breakdown point. Not even from the top, just after the breakdown point. And it acted as a new resistance din, right? So nagka-SNR flip. So yun lang. Again, hindi naman siya pang genius na, pag nag-breakdown above average volume, wala na, GG na yung stock. Pwede naman, hindi. Pwede naman bumawi or pwedeng counter trend opportunities. But if you have a stock, diba? If you're watching a stock, you see breakdown above average volume, you want to see kung kaya bumawi. If not, you may want to avoid it. Tapos, if hawak mo naman yung stock, nag-breakdown on this much volume, then you may need to consider cutting your losses. Right, here's another example. We have X forming a descending triangle, right? And then, but sadly, itong point ito, parang nagka-warning signal na when it broke out, right, okay, solid, nag-breakout. But when it went back inside the base, it went back inside on so much volume on the downside. So that was your initial warning signal. And then, eventually, nag-breakdown siya. And yun na yung, yung confirmation. And as we all know, X eventually became a penny stock. And from 3.20 pesos or 3 pesos went all the way down to 57 cents in about a year or two, a year and a half, and down 81% from that breakdown point. Here we have CHP again. So the nice thing about volume is, which I'll be talking more about later, is not only is it pang confirmation, it's also it gives warning signals, whether on the upside or the downside. And at this point, it gave us warning signals on the downside on multiple days. Right? Here, kaya natin breakdown na above average volume. Pero bumawi. This is what I'm saying. Kaya naman bumawi. But it gave us another warning signal here. Diba, na grabe yung selling on that day. So potentially, if we don't see any follow-throughs on the upside, if it breaks down, pwede ba GG? Right? So as you can see here, na-confirm na at this point, again, above average volume. Diba? And as you all know, it was the beginning of the end, right? So it went down 90%, umabot ng piso levels. Alam ko ngayon sa 1.30, 1.40. But yeah, in the big picture scale of things, since that major breakdown, di na siya nakabawi pa at the moment. Now, volume, as I've mentioned, can also be used as warning signals or hints, whether it's for the upside or the downside. And now I'm going to show you how it can be hints on the upside. So here, we have signs of accumulation. So volume can actually be used as parang yung warning signals. Okay, potentially, baka may move on the upside. O baka may bounce, baka may counter trend rally. Diba? So, at this point, we have IDC early this year, early after the market crashed. So, meron din akong RSI dito. For those who don't know what RSI is, I'll be explaining it after, mamaya, later in the lesson. So, basta yan, if alam na yung RSI, may bull div, right? But anyway, so here we have IDC. So, IDC was forming yung bottoming out pattern natin, yung Darvas box sa ilalim. Diba? But as you can see, ang lakas ng volume for some reason. So, this, given na it was consolidating, right, can be a potential sign of accumulation. And after the fact, diba, as you can see, grabe yung volume, no? So, if you're a trader looking at this, parang magiging interesting na siya. Because we can see na it's not breaking down, it's consolidating above support, alaki ng volume. So we can say na potentially baka signs of accumulation yan. Right? Walang sure ball, pwede mag-breakdown, but given this, na grabe yung volume, hindi masyado napapansin, hindi masyado gumagalaw pa, baka okay ito na bilhin on support or okay ito bantayan for a bigger move. And after that point, diba, it eventually moved to the upside. Nag 58% move, tapos nauntog sa resistance, and the chart after the fact nag-breakdown pa. But yun, yeah, it shows us a potential sign of accumulation. Here's another example. We have home, right? And the same thing happened. When it was consolidating, we see huge volume spikes on the upside, right? And that in and of itself can be a potential signal na, okay, parang may accumulation na nangyayari, right? And then eventually, he was able to break out of that pattern above average volume. And then it was just a beginning of a bigger move on the upside. And so, nag-up siya 67%. Then here we have URC, actually is the same thing. Diba? We have a consolidation, right? After coming from a downtrend, we have a consolidation right here. Again, Darvas box sa ilalim, if that's what you want to call it. And then yun, it has above average volume during green day. So, ito guys, a nuance we want to notice. If we see, right, especially if it's parang sa Darvas box na ilalim na pattern, or consolidation after coming from a downtrend, if we see huge volume, right, like this one, on incremental price movement, meaning halos hindi gumalaw yung price, like here, above average volume, pero parang doji lang, or halos hindi gumalaw yung presyo. Ito, ang lakas ng volume, halos hindi gumalaw yung presyo. That can also be signs of potential accumulation, right? Because it can be sign of parang churning. Let's say, parang yung strong hands, they're accumulating the stock, right? And this was evident in these two candles. Then eventually, after it broke out, diba, it made a huge move from 110 to 130. If you're able to get it during the consolidation, it made a 39% move in total. So again, yung volume, it can be, again, parang hints of what's potentially to come. Right here, we have another great example. Again, incremental price movement. Halos walang nangyari. Very small price movements. But the volume, as we can see, was above average. Right? Tapos nung down days naman, yung mga red days, mga red candles, yan, ang liliit na ng volume on the downside. So ito pa lang, parang ano na siya, okay, hindi naman siya sure na bibili na dapat, no? But it's a sign na, okay, if ever this breaks out on the upside, there can be a potential big move. And that's what happened. After yung nga, itong volume days na to na malaki, incremental price movement, signs of accumulation, it broke out and they made a 46% move in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, in about 10 days. So for a blue chip, that's a very decent move. Tapos tuloy-tuloy lang, puro green candles lang. After ng 8 pesos, yun nauntog na. Alright, so aside from signs of accumulation, you can also use it. Ito, yung accumulation, madali lang siya ma-spot eh. Basta yun, let's say, yun nga, coming from a downtrend, na consolidate, you see volume, coming into the stock, that's potential signs of accumulation. So, pwede siyang, madali siya ma-spot. But yung distribution naman, ito, mas mahirap siya ma-spot. But, it also gives us warning signals. Sa ngayon, potentially, after going in an uptrend, nagkaka-profit taking na. And not only normal profit taking, which, normal profit taking kasi pwedeng consolidation lang mangyari, tapos breakout. But when it comes to distribution, this means that the smart money who is able to get it at earlier stages are now selling big portions of their holdings. Diba? So, diba sabi ko dun sa previous lesson, during consolidations, you want to see above average, below average volume on the consoles and then high volume on the breakouts. When we say distribution, we will see above average volume on the downside during these consolidations. When we see this, potentially warning sign na yan. It won't be the end of the world yet, but it can be a warning signal of what's to come. And dito sa BDO, we can say naman na consolidation lang yan eh, but the problem is, nung nagka-red candles, ayun, ang laki ng volume on the downside on multiple days. So it doesn't only have to be one day. Di ba? Kasi pwede naman yan na one day may red candle, malaki volume, pero pag bumawi agad, okay. Pero mas mataas yung chance na legit yung distribution if nagkamaraming red candles tapos lahat above average volume. And dito, sobrang dami. And eventually, nag-breakdown. Here's another example. We have ABA. Right? When mukha siya nagpo-form lang ng conso, but during the red candles, right, ang laki ng volume on the downside. And when it tried to break out again, diba, wala, na-reject. And then eventually, ayun, nagka-red candle ulit na malaki yung volume on the downside. So this was just a warning of what was to come. Then eventually, di siya nakabawi and bumagsak, right? 58%. Diba? So again, signs of distribution. Again, another example. Ito, PSEI. So actually, I remember when I was trading in local market, I was able to sell majority of my holdings dito sa levels na to. Almost sa tuktok sa may resistance na to. How? Because I already saw the volume activity, and for me, ito showing me na not only was it at resistance, but when it was coupled with nag-confluence siya with the volume activity, showing me na potentially, okay, parang malakas yung resistance dito or potentially mauntog siya dito. How did I know? So this is something I learned from William O'Neill sa book niya, How to Make Money in Stocks. Yung orange, yung lagi namin nire-recommend ni JC. When we see, right, kasi dito, paano natin malaman na distribution na yung nangyayari? Kasi green candles naman lumalabas. But here's the thing. When we see above, sa indices, mostly sa index pala to, well, pwede rin sa individual stocks, but I use this case study sa index. When we see above average volume, especially in the index, but the price movement is only incremental. Diba? Pag sa ilalim, okay yun, that's good signs. But if we see that sa taas, sa tuktok, sa resistance na above average volume, tapos it's only making incremental price movements, right? Again, this case is for the index lang. Tapos nasa may resistance, that can be a sign of potential distribution. Meaning, the smart money, the institutional money who is able to buy at these levels, nagbebenta na doon. Nagkakaroon na ng churning from strong hands to weak hands. Ba, ito na yung warning signals ko. I saw na, okay, ang lakas ng volume, pero ano lang, ang liliit lang ng mga kandila. Maliit lang yung parang change niya. Parang 0.50% lang, 0.60%, 1%, or less than 1% pa. So that was a warning signal for me. Tapos nung lumabas sa red candle na to, I was able to liquidate majority of my holdings at this time. And then as we can see, ito yan at this point, never na siya nakabalik doon in the short to medium term. And ngayon, it's at least for the short term, medyo nasa downtrending period tayo. So that's the power of using volume, di ba? Here's another example. Again, the distribution doesn't have to happen in one day. It usually happens over a series of days. So here's the Nasdaq. Right, prior to the market crash, diba? Eventually, nag-crash eh. But marami na warning signals actually. We have one warning signal here. We have another warning signal here. Again, a down day on above average volume. We have a distribution day here, here, and here. So we had a total of 5 distribution days telling us na potentially, okay, maybe we have to be careful. Again, hindi siya sure ball na babagsak. But given na 5 na yung distribution days, na down day on above average volume, warning signal na to na, okay, maybe I have to be more cautious. And yun nga, eventually, the market crashed. Right? So, overall, right, that's how we use volume. We can use that as confirmation of a breakout, confirmation of a breakdown, signs of accumulation, and signs of distribution. And ano nga ba yung mga constructive volume activity natin? And we already know this. I just want to emphasize on it again. Again, na-discuss na to sa chart pattern na lesson. We want to see low volume during the consolidation and high volume during the breakout. And again, here's a few examples. We have ditto, right? We have a low volume consolidation. And you guys should already know this. The reason why we want low volume consolidation, high volume breakout is because when we see low volume consolidations, that means after a prior up move, nag-conso lang siya, hindi siya nag-breakdown. Tapos kapag low volume, that means only little supply is coming into the market. Meaning, hindi sobrang dami yung sellers to the point na magbe-breakdown siya tapos mag-start ang downtrend. And there's institutional people supporting the stock. And the reason why we want to see high volume breakout, again, is to signal the demand. So again, here we have a low volume Darvas box here, or a low volume flat base. Then we have a breakout which led to a big move. And then ito, another low volume conso, another high volume breakout. Diba? And then eventually, nung umabot na sa point dito, ayun, nagkatatlong kandila tayo na above average yung selling. Right? So for me, at this point, kapag hindi siya mag-conso na maganda, potentially, ito na yung mga legit distribution days. Hindi na siya yung parang dito sa point na to na walang volume halos. Right? But hindi pa naman to totally deads. Kasi kung mag-conso naman, kasi dito, ganoon din naman nagka-distribution sa days na to. Right? Above average yung volume as we can see here. But eventually, nag-conso siya on low volume. Right? So it was a good sign. But here, as we can see, hindi na siya nag-conso. Actually, nag-gap down pa siya. Ito, nagka-big red candle on, again, above average volume. So, at that point, huge warning signal na for me na baka distribution na yung nangyayari. And that's what happened eventually. It went down from 380 to 250. 36% bumagsak. But, kung research chart papakita natin, after this point, actually, bumawi naman siya and bumalik na sa 4, right? But, still, just to show you guys, again, yung volume acted as a warning signal on potentially what could happen on the downside. Ito naman, again, a good example for low volume conso plus high volume breakout yung ideal, right? Volume activity we want to see in market leaders, meaning the strong stocks. We have a low volume conso, high volume breakout. We have a low volume Darvas box, high volume breakout. Low volume conso again, high volume breakout. So paulit-ulit lang. Same thing here in this much bigger consolidation. Diba? Again, nagka-big selling dito, but the thing was, bumawi naman siya kaagad. Tapos nag-continue siya sa low volume consolidation niya. So, nag-form siya na ascending triangle and then nagka-high volume breakout. Pero ngayon, given the current structure, di ba, we see high volume on the downside. So, potential distribution. So, we have to observe na lang kapag baka mag-breakdown siya below 2 pesos. Parang ganun. Here, a US stock example naman. Same thing. Low volume consolidation, right? And then on the breakout, it was above average or high volume. And then that was just the beginning of a big move on the upside. So, 54% yung inakyat. So, besides from this, may nakikita ba tayo? Di ba medyo bumagsak siya? Ba't kaya siya bumagsak? May nakikita ba kayong chart pattern? Again, we have the double top, right? So, inad ko lang. And then, it broke below the neckline. Ngayon, parang retesting na siya. So, old support naging new resistance. Tas, potentially, baka mag-continue down move to si Spotify. Pero di pa natin alam. So, just to summarize, man, price is still king. Diba? If a stock breaks out on low volume, pero tumuloy, tumuloy, right? And if a stock breaks down, or basta yun, price is king, tas yung volume, gravy lang yan. Just because there's a consolidation, Darvas box sa ilalim, tapos may high volume, di ba pwede siyang signs of accumulation. But, if price breaks down, wala pa rin. Wala lang din yun. So, volume can be used as confirmation or can be used as signals or warning signals that can show us potentially in the future ano kaya pwede mangyari. Right? In terms of accumulation and distribution. But again, walang sure ball. Diba? Ano lang to? Parang added information lang. At the end of the day, if price doesn't concur or doesn't agree with what volume is telling us, who do we listen to? We listen to price. Okay. Water break.
It's now time to rise above the challenges brought by 2020. Pandemic, we will overcome. Quarantine, we will break free. Market crash, we will bounce back. Join the Investor Trading Cup 2020 Bounce Back Challenge. Now with a prize pot of over $500,000 worth of cash prizes. plus a chance to win a lifetime access to Investa Prime Elite, and access to our sponsors' exclusive memberships. Milestone rewards, raffle rewards from our trading community partners, books, and other cash prizes. Be hailed as the best of the best, competing against thousands of traders. Prove to yourself that you are more than a conqueror. Prove that you can rise above any challenge. Do you have what it takes to be the next champion of the biggest trading competition in the Philippines? Prove it in Investa Trading Cup 2020 Bounce Back Challenge. Join now.
So I believe that's it for the volume indicator. Right now, we're gonna move on to moving averages. So ito, isa sa mga basic na kailangan malaman natin lahat. I'm sure a good amount of us here already know it. So ano nga ba yung moving averages? So moving average, ito yan, yung mga linya na yan. Right? So basically, this indicator, kinukuha niya yung average price of depending on how many days set mo. So when you say MA5, moving average 5, that means kinukuha niya yung average price of the last 5 days. Tapos ginagawa niya ng trend as we can see here. Right? So how do we better explain this? So ito, gumawa ng table. So ano nga ba ibig sabihin ng, we always hear kasi yung MA20, MA50, 100, 200. When we say MA20, basically, kinukuha niya yung average price of the past 20 days. So, ginagawa niya ng trend, which is ito, MA20, itong green. Right? So, when we use MA20, ito yung usually short-term moving average natin. So, it looks at the short-term outlook for the stock. And as long as the price is above MA20, we can say the short-term trend is up. Obviously, we can go shorter, we can go MA10, MA5, depends on you. But generally, MA20 is really a good basis. Kasi, always remember, the shorter term the moving average, the less significant it is. So, pag MA5 yan, masyadong volatile yan. So, MA20 is a good period to look at for the short term. And then, if we say MA50, yan, mas medium term na yan. Same application lang sa MA20, but this time, we're measuring the medium term trend. So, as long as the price is above MA50, we can say na the medium term trend is good. Right? And then, same thing for for MA100, MA200, ito, mas long-term lang na approach. So, that's how we use moving averages, right? Or that's the settings, kumbaga. So, now, I want to answer a common question in the community. Ano difference sa simple moving average sa exponential moving average? So, or basically, ano yung difference ng SMA sa EMA? So, ito lang yun. So, here in the chart, I have both I have an MA20 and an EMA20. Yung MA20 yung red, yung EMA yung blue. So, ano yung pagkakaiba nila? Pareho naman 20-day period. Yung EMA kasi, it gives more weight in the recent price movement. So, mas madikit siya sa presyo, basically. As you can see here, yung blue, yung EMA, mas madikit siya sa price. While yung MA naman, mas hindi siya dikit masyado. Right? Here's another example. Again, yung blue, yung EMA, mas madikit siya sa presyo because it gives more weight on the recent price movement. Tapos, yung MA, mas malayo. So, ano mas maganda? Mas maganda ba yung EMA or SMA? Mas maganda ba yung moving average o yung exponential moving average? The answer is, wala namang mas maganda. Depende yan sa'yo. If gusto mong mas, nangunguna ka, edi EMA gamitin mo. Pero if gusto mo, mas chill ka lang, edi simple moving average, yung MA lang. It really depends on you. Personally, I used EMAs, right? But that's just me. But, I mean, it doesn't really make that much difference in my opinion. But of course, it makes a difference. But I just chose EMA kasi gusto ko, mas reactive ako sa presyo. Kasi mas active ako na trader. So, kung mas chill ka na trader, pwedeng SMA ka na lang, simple moving average. So now, ano nga ba yung uses, right, ng mga moving averages na to? So first, we can use it as a price break, buy, or sell signal. So how does this work? I want to give a lot of, I want to be more example focused. So pwedeng basic use ng moving average is, if price goes above the moving average, buy signal mo yun. So here we're using MA50. So sa Wilcon, nung nag-break out siya above MA50, yan yung buy signal natin. And then, kailan mo siya bebenta? You'll only sell it if it goes below that moving average again. So here, it can also act, as mentioned dito, pwede rin siya sell signal. So yan, when it went below, yan yung selling mo. Right? So this is a basic strategy na pwede mo gamitin, di ba? So again, the longer term na moving average, more significant. So dito, MA50, we're talking about the medium term trend. But guys, again, this is a very basic example lang. And the problem with this, or basic strategy, and the problem with this is, especially if you're using a shorter term moving average, is pwede magka-potentially maraming signal. So here, we have a signal here, umakyat, tapos bumagsak, halos break even ka lang. We have a signal here, tapos sell signal, buy signal ulit, sell signal ulit. So, if you're simply using this strategy, potentially, baka maraming signals, right? Especially if we're using it in a more volatile stock. Ito, pinapakita ko mga mas stable na stocks, right? But again, the longer term the moving average, the less signals they're going to be. So here we have BPI, right? After breaking out above MA100, right? Yan yung buy signal natin. So, again, I just want to emphasize the longer term the moving average, the more significant. Meaning, the more significant the breakout, the more significant move on the upside. Kapag breakout lang yan above MA5, bukas pwede yung bumalik sa baba ng MA5. Tsaka very less significant siya. Pero if in this example, we're using MA100, as you can see, eventually, after breaking out, nag-start siya ng trend. Kasi nga, significant siya. Long-term uptrend siya, ibig sabihin, kapag above MA100. So, you buy here, and then bibenta mo lang kapag nag-below MA100, which was sa may 102 area. But it went as high as above 108. But for me, from a personal standpoint, I don't usually use MAs as a buy signal. I usually use it as a sell signal na lang. Or ito yung trail stops kung baga. Yung mga ginagamit kapag trend follower ka. And if you don't know what trend follower is, I'll discuss it in a future lesson. Yung mga types of trading styles. Mga momentum, position, bottom picking, trend following, swing trading. So yeah. Kasi as you can see here, if we use MA20 as your buy signal, sobrang dami dito pa lang. Parang ito, mapapabili ka dito, benta, bili, benta, bili, benta. So for me, I would rather just use yung price structure breakout. Tapos, I will use the moving average as a trail stop or as a selling indication or selling indicator. So dito, sa AMD trade ko, sa US, when it broke out, sabi ko, okay, when it goes below MA20, magbebenta na ako. And as you can see, dito nag-below MA20 siya. And then I locked in a 40% gain. So guys, always remember lang, when we're selling using a moving average, diba, hindi natin mabebenta yan sa tuktok. Obviously, the shorter term, the moving average, the more likely you're gonna sell it close to the top. Pero, pwede rin mangyari is baka ma-shake out ka lang kasi masyadong short term. Sorry. So yun lang, basta, remember, when we're selling using a moving average, hindi natin mabebenta sa tuktok. Right? So, yun lang. So, personally ako, again, I use moving averages not as a buy signal, but more as a sell signal. Right? Here's another example. We have fruit, which after breaking out of this pattern, right, sa ilalim. So, what you could have done is you could have trailed your profits using MA20 or MA20 for this example, and you would have been able to lock in a 41% gain. So, benta ka na pag nag-close below na. Pwede rin intraday, pwedeng end of day, depends on you. But ito yung tamang sell signal. So, 41% gain din yun. Okay, wait lang. Pwede lang tubig ulit. So now, you can also use moving averages as dynamic support and resistance levels. Sa yung naturo kong support and resistance, diba? Tinuro ko trend lines, yung usual na pahiga, horizontal, and very subjective siya. Right? The way to make it objective is we can use moving averages as levels of support or levels of resistance. So as you can see here, we have house. So we can use yung mga MAs natin as areas of support where we can buy. So here, as you can see, whenever house tested MA20, bumabawi siya kagad. So that's levels where we can potentially buy at support. Diba? You can buy here, here, and here bago siya nag-breakdown. Diba? And as you can see here, medyo nag-overshoot siya below the level. No? Below MA20 here and here, right? But I just want everyone to remember, yung MA, hindi yan parang strict to the, diba? Manipis na linya yan. Hindi siya strict na, yan, pag nag-close 1% below, dedo na yan. We have to give it a little bit room to fluctuate. So, pwedeng 2 to 3%, di ba? But that depends on you. Basta, again, you want to remember that the moving averages, hindi siya strict na parang line lang. Kapag nag-overshoot siya, napaka-onte below that level, deads na. Hindi siya ganun. And that's the case for house. Nag-overshoot below, pero bumawi naman kaagad, di ba? So, yun lang yun. Here's another example. We have tubes after breaking out of this downtrend line. Di ba? In this example, I used MA50, so mas medium term. So as you can see here, when it tested MA50, that was a buying opportunity. Dito rin, when it tested MA50, again, it acted as a dynamic support. We can buy it there, and then nag-bounce pa siya. And then dito ulit, nag-aka-support, nagka-mini bounce before eventually breaking down. Another example here, again, a US stock example. Dito naman, ginagamit ko EMA. But the application still applies, pareho lang sa EMA, sa SMA. So again, this time I use EMA20. And again, it acted as support levels 5 times, diba, before eventually closing below it. Right, so this is potential areas for us where we can buy positions if we're not able to get it at the breakouts, right? So, even if you bought it dito sa pinakahuling test of EMA20, tapos binenta mo lang, when it closed below EMA20, yan, 38% pa rin yung move na nakuha mo, yung profits. And now, you can also use it not just as dynamic support, but as they already mentioned, as dynamic resistances. So, as you can see here, gumagamit ako ng MA100, so mas long-term moving average, right? So, mas significant siya. And as you can see here, CHP, whenever it tried to test MA100, nauuntog. May times na nag-overshoot siya, yes, sige. But overall, if hindi siya mag-follow through, wala lang yan. So, nag-overshoot pero bumalik sa loob. Nag-overshoot ulit pero bumalik sa loob. So, what we can say here is, the long-term trend is still down. Diba? Yes, pwede siya mag-break out above that level. But if there's no sustainability, wala lang din yun. What's important is, after it breaks out, mag-sustain siya para magka-potential uptrend naman tayo. But as you can see sa example ni CHP, bumabagsak pa rin. Here's another one. We have Wholesale. This time I'm using MA50, which was a medium-term trend, right? To measure the medium-term trend. And as you can see, every time tumama sa MA50 na uuntog. So we can say here that the medium-term trend is still in a downtrend. Here's another example. This time I'm using EMA200, yung super long term, and I'm using a US stock, si AAL or si American Airlines Group Inc. So as you can see, every time it tested EMA200, yan nauuntog. Diba? So this acts as a heavy resistance. Again, the longer term the moving average, the more significant. Diba? If I used EMA20 in this example, maraming overshoot yan. But now that I'm using a longer term moving average, kita natin that price respects that resistance, and the only way for it to break that level is for massive volume to come in, or dapat may catalyst, as yung sinasabi nga ni JC. So dito yan, untog. Then if you continue the chart, ito may maliit na overshoot, pero yun, wala nga sustainability. So eventually, pag bumalik ka dyan, mapapakat ka kung di ka nag-cut, nadali ka sa market crash. And then nung nag-rally siya, again, huge opportunity, but siya nauntog siya sa EMA200 ulit. Nag-overshoot, tapos bumalik lang sa loob. And lastly, so that's how we can use it. We can use it as, we can also use it as dynamic support and resistance levels. Lastly, we can also use it as trend filters. So when I say trend filters kasi, when people ask, how do you know if it's in an uptrend? Ganyan, how do you know pag downtrend? We can use moving averages. And sa screener natin, usually, we use mga moving averages. So what's a simple metric you can use? So to know na sobrang lakas yung stock, na talagang uptrending leader, we have, ang pwedeng metric natin dito for a trend filter is if price is above MA20, 50, and 100. Tapos dapat magkapatong yan. So dapat MA20, dapat ito yung price, tapos MA20, MA50, MA100. So price must be above all those levels, tapos MA20 must be above MA50, MA50 must be above MA100. So that's an easy way for you to screen your stocks, right? Pwede mo yan ilagay sa Investa screener natin. So yun, dito at this point, we see ACE-PH, right? So it showed us these signals, diba, na all moving averages were above each other, right? The short term is above the medium term is above the long term, and the price is above all of these moving averages. So at this point, what do we do? Buy signal na ba kagad? Hindi. Kailangan natin maghanap na setup. Setup natin is ito. May consolidation, tapos nag-breakout, and then yung confirmation natin. So may above average volume, and it led to a 67% move in a short period of time. I have another example here. We have SQ. Again, I'm using the same MAs, 20, 50, and 100. So, kailan siya naging pumasok sa trend filter natin? Pumasok siya at this point, dito pa lang. Because at this point, dyan nag-cross above yung MA50 natin sa MA100. And as you can see, sakto, inline siya sa setup, all-time high breakout. And after that, after it broke out, it still made from 100 to 160, mga 60% move. Here's another example. We have Tesla, again, using the same moving averages. So, saan siya naging valid sa trend filter natin? Naging valid siya dito na, sa circle na to. When MA20 was above MA50 and MA50 was above MA100 and price was above that. And then again, inline siya, kapag handle breakout, and then it eventually made a super big move. Parang 100% pa ba inakyat? Yun, halos more than 100% pa. So that's how we can also use moving averages as trend filters. So personally ako, how do I use MAs? I use it as number one, trail stop. So I use it when price goes below my chosen MA or EMA, ginagamit ko siya as selling signal. Tapos I also use it as itong trend filter sa atin. Nilalagay ko sa investor screener yung ganito. Ito yung trend filter ko, MA50, MA20, 50, and 100. Sometimes, di ko kasi sama yung MA20 kasi medyo short term naman siya. But if you really want to find a strong leader, dapat above MA20 din. Okay, water break ulit. Alright. Next ko naman ituturo is yung RSI. So what is RSI? RSI is a momentum-based indicator, right? Or oscillator rather. So paano siya gumagana? Sa RSI, dito sa ilalim, there's two settings, di ba? Or there's two levels we have to keep an eye on. As you can see, naka-highlight naman, no? May mga broken lines. So, if it's, eto may mga numbers. So, alright. If the RSI goes below 30, yung 30 levels, or basta itong linya to, I believe that's 30 or 25, we can deem that level as oversold, meaning na sobra na yung benta, right? Wait lang, sorry, excuse me. Medyo excited na lang muna ako. And sa textbook way of using RSI, when a stock is oversold, that's a potential buying opportunity. Kasi oversold na nga. So textbook tinuturo is when RSI goes to below 30 levels, or yan, tumusok siya dito, right? Below yung broken line sa atin, which is yung 30 levels nga, that's a buying opportunity. And as you can see here, sa index, right, whenever you bought, whenever the price went to these oversold levels, nag-bounce, right, yung presyo, diba? But now, and then, okay, so that's what we call oversold levels. Ano naman yung nasa taas? That's what we call overbought levels, right? So here, when the RSI, when it goes above 70, di lang kita yung number per 70 yan, we can deem that area as overbought or areas where we can sell na kasi baka mauntog na doon. So as you can see sa index, again, picture perfect textbook example. So here, nung nag-overbought, nauntog, nung nag-overbought, nauntog, tsaka nauntog. So parang yung logic dito is bili ka kapag oversold, benta mo kapag overbought. Very basic, right? Let me give you another example. We have IDC. Dito, oversold siya, below 30. Diba? And then, pag bumalik ka dyan, umakyat, saan ka magbebenta? Magbebenta ka pag oversold. Right? And then, saan siya nauntog? Dyan, oversold na siya at this point. So, 75% move. Tapos nauntog, bumagsak. So, genius. Here's another example. We have Vita. Right? So, si Vita, here again, same thing. Bibili ka pag oversold. Right? Bebenta ka pag overbought. So, di naman siya kailangan picture perfect, no? But yun, nung lumapit na sa overbought levels, ayan, nauntog na, bumagsak. Almost oversold ulit, tapos nag-bounce. Tapos, eventually, nung nag-close to oversold, yan, nagbenta. So, di siya kailangan sobrang exact, right? Tapos dito, nung nag-oversold ulit, ayan, buying opportunity ulit based on the RSI. And then, same thing here. We have, di ko na-highlight yung iba sa RSI, but same thing, when it was oversold, nag-bounce, nung nag-overbought, dito, nauntog. And then same thing here, we have oversold levels 3 times with 3 bounces. Diba? And then again, nung nag-oversold, yan, nauntog, bumagsak, nag-overbought, umakyat, nag-oversold, bumagsak. So that's basically it. Parang buy low, sell high. Parang buy pag overbought, sell pag oversold. Buy pag oversold, sell pag overbought. Or buy kapag nag-RSI 30 or lower, sell kapag nag-RSI 70 or higher. So parang yun yung sinasabi, no? But here's the thing now. Here's an example. Here we have ATN. So ATN at this point, yan, may breakout, di ba? But RSI was oversold above 70 na. So kung textbook ang paggagamitan mo, wala na yan. Sell signal na yan. So bebenta ka na. So genius, okay, nabenta mo. So what happened after this point? It still went 122% up. So bakit ganun? Di ba? From RSI 70, nag-RSI 90 pa, halos nag-RSI 100. So bakit ganun? Dapat sell signal na, sabi ni Toma kanina. So when we use, so here's the thing pala. The reason why kung bakit hindi siya bumagsak is because the way I showed you how to use RSI kanina only works in sideways trends. But if a stock is a trending stock or breaks out of resistance, again, a breakout of resistance is a start of a new uptrend. So if you use yung conventional way of using RSI sa trending stocks, more likely than not, magkakamali ka. So actually, if it's in a trending stock, right, if RSI is above 70, buy signal yan. Because again, a stock, right, it can be deemed expensive, but the thing is, it can get more expensive pa. Kung mahal, baka mahalin mo pa, di ba? That's what I mentioned before. So again, yung mga examples kanina, what are common here? Right? We are seeing it in a sideways trend. Diba? So again, ito, sideways trend, right? So parang so pwede yan, buy pag oversold, sell pag overbought. Yung maganda pa kita example, si Vita. Diba? So very basic strategy lang kasi ito eh. So applicable siya pag sideways trend. Yung basic natin na buy pag overbought, sell pag oversold. But when we have a trending example, when we have a stock that breaks out, tas RSI 70, that's actually a buying signal. Diba na RSI 70, nag-breakout, that means ang lakas na momentum. Kasi again, momentum indicator or momentum oscillator ito. So now, na nag-uptrend siya, yan. Good signal yan na nag-above 70. Here's another example. We have AceX. So si AceX at these 2 points, oversold na. Or rather, overbought. So above RSI 70 na. So bebenta na ba dapat tayo? The thing is, this was at a 52-week high level and eventually, nag-breakout pa siya. And kung overbought na nga siya dito, lalo pa siya naging overbought, nag-54% move. Again, hindi mo dapat ginagamit yung usual textbook way kapag trending yung stock. Right? Kapag nag-breakout siya above resistance. So yan, 54% move. And the thing was, it not only made the 54% move, it actually made 100+% move. And after this point, diba dito, nauntog siya eventually, what happened? Sobrang oversold na, nasa 80 na. But again, it still made an even bigger move, right? So if a stock, again, is trending, as long as it's above RSI 70, good signal yan. Now, here's another example naman na gusto ko ipakita. Ito si Tech, right? Si Tech, at this point, oversold na. Nabenta na masyado based sa RSI. So dapat, buy signal na yan, di ba? But again, what can we see here? It's actually trending towards pababa na. And, ito yan, no? Diba? Sa 40 pesos. Diba? Ito yan, oversold na siya dito. What happened? Lalo pa siya naging oversold. Umabot pa sa may 17. Diba? So, sobrang oversold na. Nag-RSI 10 na. Right? So, okay na ba yan? Pwede na mabilin yun? From 17 pesos na yan, ito yan, lalo pa siya, nagkamaliit na bounce ka, but it became more oversold, nag-10, and then naging 3 pa, naging oversold lalo. So, what's the thing I am trying to tell you guys here? Diba? Like I mentioned in the previous lesson, a stock can be expensive, but it can get more expensive. A stock can be cheap, but it can be cheaper. Diba? Pag mahal mo, baka mahalin mo lalo, like ATN and AceX. Pero pag mura, baka mapamura ka pa, like si Tech. So, a stock can remain overbought, right? And become even more overbought. From 70, pwede mag-90 pag malakas yung demand. In contrast, a stock can be oversold and remain oversold, right? As long as malakas yung sellers, tsaka pa downtrend yung market. So ito, as you can see, if hindi ka nag-cut loss sa may 40 pesos, wala, GG ka na kasi it remained oversold lang all the way pababa. And then eventually, nag-bounce siya na malakas and then nauntog siya, right, nung nag-oversold, tapos bumagsak ulit. So what's the point here? Again, yung textbook na buy pag oversold, sell pag overbought, okay yan pag sideways market. That's the basic textbook way, right? But again, if we're in a trending stock, in a stock that's uptrending, or a stock that broke out of resistance and is starting an uptrend, RSI 70, that's a good buy signal for you. Tapos, if we're in a stock naman that's downtrending, that's oversold, that's actually a sign na potentially baka tumuloy pa yung downtrend. Malakas pa rin yung momentum pababa, malakas pa rin yung sellers. Tapos, kapag yun nga, nag-breakdown, tapos oversold, yun, that can be a sign of huge momentum on the downside. So again, if it's oversold, it can remain oversold for a long time. If it's overbought, it can remain overbought until magkamaraming sellers. So that's how we read yung RSI natin. So what's another way we can use RSI? We can also actually use it as additional breakout metrics. So if sa price, pwede tayo maglagay ng downtrend line, pwede rin actually sa RSI. So dito, sa RSI, di ba, may downtrend line. Tapos sa breakout, that can also be additional signals for you or additional levels of conviction to buy the breakout sa price. So here we have a cup with handle, or ito cup, tapos falling wedge. Right, nung nag-breakout dito, you can check sa RSI. Wala pa sa 70, but nag-breakout din yung RSI sa downtrend line niya. And that can be added conviction for you to also buy the momentum play or the breakout play. Here's another example. We have nickel. Si nickel, when dito, let's say you missed on this breakout and then you're looking to buy it here. Diba? Another way for you to have conviction or to say na okay, potentially baka may move to on the upside is to check the RSI. Meron bang downtrend line na nabasag yung RSI in line with the price breakout? And meron. Diba? And then eventually nag-RSI 70 siya, which was again a good sign kapag trending stock, hindi to sideways trend, uptrending stock to, nag-consolidate lang, and then boom, eventually, yan, nagka-big move. Here's another example. We have ACE-N, a very recent example. So ACE-N, diba, we have a consolidation, and then we have a breakout, right? And then we have above average volume. What else can indicate na potentially baka magka-big move na to? You can also check the RSI. RSI also broke out of its own downtrend line and nag-RSI 70. So, ang daming factors that are confluencing or that are coming together to say na potentially from a high probabilistic standpoint, mataas yung chance na maging magandang play to. And as you already know, ACE-X went up all the way to above 3 pesos and made a new all-time high. So, yeah. So, this is the end of my part of the lesson. And we actually, hindi lang ako yung magtuturo, right, for this lesson. We have also invited other, right, guests, right, educators to teach you guys other indicators. So, after me, the next educator will be Matt Flores from our partner sa Open Journal, where he will be teaching you guys how to use yung mga bull and bear divs sa RSI, MACD, pati ADX. And then after niya, the next speaker will be Kervin, like one of our teammates who will be teaching Fibonacci. And then after that, we will have sina Jonathan from PAFT, again, our partners from sa Investagrams. They want to teach you guys, I believe, stochastics and Ichimoku. So without further ado, Boss Matt, the floor is yours.
Alright, so short break muna tayo mga classmates. Sobrang lupit ng mga tinuro sa atin ni Pao, and to make sure na mararating sa atin yan, pop quiz muna tayo. Madali lang to, multiple choice lang siya. I have 3 questions for you, and all you have to do is to comment your answer below. And you have 5 seconds to answer each question. So ready ka na ba? Okay, so let's start. Number 1. What volume characteristics should be seen in market leaders? Choices are letter A, low volume consolidation and low volume breakouts, or letter B, high volume consolidation and high volume breakouts, or letter C, low volume consolidation and high volume breakouts. You have 5 seconds to answer this question.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, so time's up. And the answer to this question is letter C. So low volume consolidation and high volume breakouts. Okay, so number 2. Which is not a way to use moving averages? Again, which is not a way to use moving averages? Choices are letter A, dynamic support and resistance, letter B, to measure overbought levels, or letter C, trend filter. You have 5 seconds to answer this question. Which is not a way to use moving averages?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Alright, so time's up. And the answer to this question is to measure, letter B, to measure overbought levels. So, this is for RSI. Alright, so off to our last and final question for tonight. Which of the following statements is true? Choices are letter A, when a stock reaches RSI 70 and is making a new all-time high, this is a buy signal. Or letter B, when a stock in a sideways trend hits oversold levels, this must be avoided. Or letter C, when a stock in a downtrend hits RSI 30, this should be treated as a buy signal. You have 5 seconds to answer this. So which of the following statements is true?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Alright, so time's up. And the answer to this question is letter A. So when a stock reaches RSI 70 and is making a new all-time high, this is a buy signal. So dito meron ng momentum. Alright, so that's it for our pop quiz for tonight. I really hope na nag-enjoy kayo at may natutunan kayo. Balik muna tayo kay Pao. Happy learning!
Yun! So again, thank you, Paolo, Toma Trader, for inviting me as part of this session. No? So what we're gonna discuss for tonight, it's more of mga indicators na usually tinatanong ng mga bago sa stock market. Siyempre, when it comes to indicators, ano ba talaga yung magiging purpose niya, 'di ba? Kasi as a newbies or as a beginner, we tend to rely mostly dun sa buying and selling signal natin, sa mga basic indicators natin. So for tonight's topic or for today's topic, 'di ba? Our topic is about understanding MACD, Relative Strength Index or RSI, and ADX as a trading indicator para sa mga newbies. Okay, so again, I'm Matt Flores. I'm the co-founder of Open Journal, and I'm also a licensed portfolio manager. Very important to know, after learning all the techniques, all the price movement techniques, strategies na diniscuss within Investa community, it is very important to note na meron din tayong mga indicators na ginagamit. And one of the most common indicators na ginagamit when we are starting trading the stock market, or simply say what we call a MACD. Diba? So first time mga nakarinig na, MACD, ito pala yung ibig sabihin niya. Moving average, convergence, divergence. At the end of the day, this is the most common indicator when we are starting out our journey sa stock market. So, basically, ano ba talaga yung MACD? Ano ba talaga yung purpose ng MACD? How we can use it as a trading tool? Or how we can take advantage MACD as a trading tool and take advantage yung mga price movement na ginagamit natin. So first, let's define ano ba yung MACD. So MACD is one of the simplest and most effective momentum indicator available. It also helps improve, or at least it helps investor understand whether the bullish or bearish movement in the price is strengthening, meaning lumalakas or humihina. Diba? So you can see, makikita mo sa MACD. So 3 important component to note sa MACD is, number 1 is the blue line. So this is the default indicator. Once you click the indicator add button, yung MACD mo, the default line is color blue, that's what we call a MACD line. The red line is what we call a signal line. Okay? And number 3 components niya is histogram. So later, after this, okay? So again, yung MACD line, which is the blue line, yan yung very important. Diba? So dapat dyan tayo nakatingin. Kasi dyan mo nakikita yung strength eh. Meaning yan yung strength ng isang stock. The signal line, it's more of a, parang sabihin ko na, it's more of a, parang signs of, parang may weakness na yung isang price movement, di ba? And of course, histograms is just an additional confirmation for you to note na, this stock is strengthening, this stock is weakening. So sabi ko nga dito, histograms is very important na it simply represents the difference between the MACD line and then the signal line. Of course, given once nag-expand, di ba? So if the investor community already discussed the importance of different moving averages, di ba? Itong MACD line also computes. So dito na pumapasok yung importance ng exponential moving averages and then MACD. Mas ano sila mas accurate if ginamita mo yung MACD mo ng EMAs or exponential moving averages. Bakit? Kasi yung computation ng MACD is based on the moving averages, which is the 12 EMA and the 26 EMA. When it comes to histograms, the bigger the gap between the lines, the higher the bars that the MACD histogram will display. Okay? So meaning pinapakita niya lang basically yung strength and weakness ng isang price movement. Okay? Basically, in general, so MACD indicators are used in one of three ways. So ito na yung very important. So paano ba magagamit yung MACD, di ba? So number one is crossover. Pangalawa is it's more of to identify kung overbought or oversold na yung isang stock. And very important, you should what we call a divergences. Diba? However, using MACD is just for you to have a buffer to reduce risk. So sinabi ko nga rin dito na, like for example, yes, it is important, diba, na gamitin mo siya, but don't use this as a main goal or as a main indicator for you to have a conviction na, this is a buy and this is a sell. Bakit? Yung MACD kasi, it's more of a lagging indicator. Okay? Again, let me repeat that. Don't use when it comes to buying and selling. Bakit? Kasi nga po, it's more of a lagging indicator. Ano po yung ibig ko sabihin? It's more of, for example, once nag-crossover na yung MACD line mo versus the signal line, meron ka na kagad conviction na, to the moon na to, meaning akit na to. However, there is still a reason, a possibility na mag-sideways pa siya. So, yung conviction mo o yung bias mo na akit na siya is baka mawala. And also, bakit hindi rin siya ginagamit as a main signal for you to execute? Kasi if ever nagsa-sideways yung market, nagsa-sideways yung stock prices, yung MACD lines mo, nagsa-sideways lang siya, meaning nagko-coil lang siya ng ganyan. So, if you use MACD as your main signal to buy specific stock, baka magulat ka na, for example, 'di ba, merong good news pero hindi included yung isang stock as part of your watchlist kasi nga nagko-coil lang. And then may good news, then baka hindi mo siya mabili. So again, effective time frame, when it comes to buying and selling, it is very important to note, and this is based on the given records, given facts, diba, ng mga technicians. Effective time frame na ginagamit yung MACD as an indicator is for daily and weekly. So very very inefficient to pagka lower time frame, meaning if you're trading 1 hour, if you're trading 30 minutes, meaning you're trading intraday time frame. So very important to note na daily or weekly lang siya. Why weekly? Because ito yung tricky part pala. Before I jump in, ito yung tricky part. 'Di ba? If walang signal sa weekly time frame, you're just using MACD, guys. Don't execute the buy or even the selling sa daily. Okay? However, pagka merong signal sa weekly pero wala sa daily, meaning magko-crossover na, magkakaroon na ng divergences sa weekly time frame, then that's the time you put the specific stock sa watchlist mo para pwede mo na siyang bantayan. You keep your eyes open na pwede mo na siyang bilhin. Diba? Very, very soon. So, very important to note, guys, na if you're buying daily, make sure na yung weekly time frame mo is maganda yung pinapakita sa using MACD. Meron ng mga divergences, meron ng mga coils, 'di ba? Meaning nasa sideways na siya, 'di ba? So meron ng hint, meron ng alam mo yung paparating na yung crossover, MACD crossover. So again, before we move dun sa example, MACD, we look MACD or we take advantage the use of MACD lines or the MACD indicator, moving averages, convergence, divergence. Number one, through crossovers, di ba? Pangalawa is overbought to identify the overbought or oversold conditions. Pangatlo, the use of divergences. Okay? So let me now show to you the different examples we have for MACD. So let me first stop sharing and share my charts. So yan. So I hope you guys can now see my screen. So let me add, diba? Currently, what you can see now is basically as a price movement, diba? So this is very important. Kasi if ever you're solely relying on the indicator on your trading journey as a starter, as a beginner, then that's a problem. Kasi usually, what's the reason ba kung why you're using indicators? So basically, the important part of the Investagram community or yung what we call the InvestaUniversity is for you to identify para mas magaan yung price movement, mas magaan sa mata nyo yung mga different price movement. Like what we're teaching in Open Journal, di ba? The first module we're teaching sa Open Journal, it's more solely price movement. Walang mga any indicators, talagang solely patterns, solely price movement. Diba? Which is very important. Kasi at the end of the day, diba? Price muna before the indicators. Diba? Price, volume, and then the lagging indicators. Okay? So now I will add the MACD as part of our trading strategy. So you just need to put MACD. Okay? Okay, so I hope everyone can now see my screen. So, okay. So again, just to note, we will not use MACD for lower time frame, okay? Meaning hindi tayo magte-trade using 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15, 5 minutes kasi hindi siya effective, di ba? Mas effective yung MACD if we're just using it on the daily or weekly time frame. Okay? So again, going back, para sa natin ginagamit yung MACD, ginagamit natin ulit, number one, crossover. Okay? So let's just focus on crossover. Okay? So like I mentioned kanina, di ba? Yung MACD, we have three components. Number one is the MACD line, which is the blue line. Pangalawa is the red line, which is the signal line. Pangatlo is the histograms, which is the histograms ito. Diba? You have your MACD line and then the signal line. Okay. Focus first on the crossovers. Basically, yung crossovers, itong mga ganitong example. Okay? Meaning nag-crossover na siya and that's the time, that's your identification, that's your signal if the trend will reverse. Okay? Na may potential na mag-reverse isang trend mo. It's either an uptrend or down move or sideways. Okay? So here's the example. For example, total nandito na tayo sa VLL. So as you can see here, your MACD line. Ang pangit na. Here. This is the example of your crossover. Okay? Another crossover here. Diba? Another crossover here. Another crossover here. Diba? So this is specific for Vistaland. So hanap pa tayo ng example. Let's say, ano ba yung mga malalakas na stock? Let's say ASEN, diba? So we're just using MACD. Yan, no? So you have here MACD. Yung MACD crossover mo 'Di ba? Which is a signal for you to execute. 'Di ba? Na meaning nag-reverse na, may potential na mag-reverse yung trend. Hindi niya sinasabi na this is 100% sure na magre-reverse na uptrend, 'di ba? However, you have your bias. You have a bias na potential, meron ka ng possibility na magre-reverse na yung trend. So, this one, another one is this one, 'di ba? As you can see there, meron na siyang potential reversal. Hindi naman siya agad-agad nag-reverse, 'di ba? At this level, pero as you can see, hindi kagad siya nabiglaan na laglag eh, 'di ba? Pero as you can see, from an uptrend, 'di ba? From an uptrend, 'di ba? Nag-reverse na rin siya. So applying your classical technical analysis, which is tinuro sa InvestaUniversity, 'di ba? So break of your support. So this is a parallel line, 'di ba? Yan, no? So break of your support, which is a confirmation also using your MACD signal line, which is a potential reversal dun sa price movement. Okay? So going back dun sa crossover natin. So you have your crossover, you have your consolidation, 'di ba? As you can see here, kita mo yung MACD line mo, 'di ba? Nasa zero level, meaning ng zero level from an uptrend, mas healthy na siya. 'Di ba? Meaning at least yung buyers and sellers hindi na ganun ka-aggressive, mas die down na yung emotions once bumaba yung MACD line pati signal line mo sa zero level. Ano ba yung zero? Meaning mas die down na yung emotions. Usually naman as trader, as investors, 'di ba? Yan naman yung very important eh. Ayaw naman natin yung mga tipong umaakit yung presyo, 'di ba? Umaakit yung isang stock. Bakit ba ganoon? Kasi nga yung bias ng mga investors is, or yung setup ng mga investors, it's more of the parang na-hype ka eh. Yung emotions mo nasa peak eh. 'Di ba? Yung gusto natin, and for us to take advantage as part of our trading or investing strategies is ma-die down yung emotions, 'di ba? Kaya nga lagi kong sinasabi sa Open Journal community na very important to note na if you're buying a stock or if you're selling a stock, make sure na yung emotions mo hindi ka peak, 'di ba? Hindi ka hype, hindi rin yung very sad ka, 'di ba? Yung emotions mo is nandun lang sa level na manageable, which is you can apply sa trading. And you can also apply using MACD indicator, 'di ba? The emotions is die down. Okay, going back, you have your MACD line crossover. 'Di ba? Crossover dun sa signal line mo, which is here. 'Di ba? If you zoom in, yan no, kita mo. Mas makikita mo yung crossover niya. Yes, you have the coil patterns na makikita mo, meaning naglalaro dyan, which is a sign of consolidation or a sign of sideways pattern ongoing. Pero once you saw the MACD crossover, then that's a signal, a bias for you to buy a specific stock or to buy itong stock nito. And ito yung sinasabi kanina, ito yung importance ng histograms, 'di ba? Importance ng histograms is for you to identify the strength. Kasi the more na mas nakabuka siya, the more na naka-expand siya, the more na yung histograms mo, yung bar level mo, which is here, nag-expand din. 'Di ba? Kita mo? Once nag-expand yung MACD line mo, yung histograms mo is nag-expand din. Tumataas din. While once na nakita mo nag-crossover naman pababa, yung MACD line mo, yung histograms mo starting to die down. 'Di ba? Starting to die down, as you can see here. Yan, no? Yung histograms mo humihina na. 'Di ba? Kasi nagko-contract na eh, lumiliit na eh. Lumiliit na yung MACD line mo pati signal line mo. So this is one thing to note then if you will be using MACD as an indicator, 'di ba? So, kita mo yung histograms mo. So, that's another crossover down, which is, again, di ba? Bakit? Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na very important to note na hindi siya recommended na use MACD as your main indicator. Again, at least majority of the time, wag mong gamitin yung MACD as your main indicator kasi nga, if ever nag-cross down yan, di ba? Baka hindi ka na makatrade. Parang forget about the stock na kasi parang pababa na yan oh. Tingnan mo. Di ba? Uy, MACD cross down. Okay, sell na ako. Okay, forget about it. Di ba? Kasi ang iintayin ko na lang is bumaba na lang siya dyan. Ma-die down na lang yung emotions. All the way back to zero level. However, di ba? Merong however. Diba? Ano nangyari? Diba? Ano nangyari? Umakyat ulit yung isang stock. Umakyat ulit. Which is usually, pagka ganyang level, naka-expand, plus the histograms mo is nakatutok pa rin sa baba, baka hindi mo siya ma-execute. Ito na importance ng price movement. Diba? Ito na yung sinasabi natin, and this is the reason why sa InvestaUniversity, inuna yung price movement, and even sa Open Journal, inuuna namin tinuturo yung price movement. Which is the very important. Yan yung dapat unang tinitingnan nyo. Hindi yung indicators as your main signal for you to buy. Kasi nga, using this example, for example, what happened to ASEN, di ba? If we're just using MACD as our main indicator to execute, then wala na, naiwan na tayo. Di ba? Kasi, uy, hindi mo na nakita yan kasi at this level nakabuka pa siya meaning naka-expand pa siya meaning towards pababa pa and your histograms is parang palaki pa ng palaki, diba? Meaning talagang more down move pababa. So what happened next is umakyat. You have your crossover, you have your MACD crossover again, diba? And then another. So, ano na naman pinapakita sa atin ng ASEN using just MACD? You have your crossover, you have your histograms pababa. So, the question now, using this example, ASEN, AC Energy Corporation, are you going to buy? Or are we just put on hold para ma-identify natin if we're gonna buy, hold, or sell? Diba? So it's really difficult to identify just using MACD. Diba? So yan, we're just waiting for it to consolidate. Pero as of now, the emotions, the very important fact na what we're seeing just using MACD, the emotions of the people is hindi pa die down. Meaning talagang may mga bumibili, may mga nagbebenta pa. Pero still, the buyers, 'di ba? Mas na-overcome ng buyers compared dun sa mga sellers. Okay? So that's the crossover. Now let's proceed naman dun sa pangalawa.
Bro,
Okay? Yo.
sorry, singit ako. Oy guys, nandito nga
Sige.
pala ako. Mayroon ako question. So, doon sa part na sobrang tagal ng consolidation ni ASEN, kita natin yung MACD, parang ang daming crossover na nangyayari
Correct.
prior to the bigger move. So,
Correct.
paano yung mga moments sa ganun? How do we... Kasi kapag, tama ka diba, sabi mo, dapat hindi to yung main indicator. Pero how do we
Correct.
parang manage yung sobrang daming mga fake crossover na sobrang liliit lang ganun?
Correct. So dito na papasok yung through the classical technical analysis, which is drawing of your trend lines or parallel lines. Kasi looking at this, 'di ba? If you're buying here, 'di ba? Buying there as your MACD crossover, 'di ba? You can 'di ba? You can say na, "Oy, parang aakyat na." However, 'di ba? If you apply your classical technical analysis, dito na papasok yung basic technical analysis mo. Siyempre, tapos ka na sa mga indicators 'di ba? Tapos ka na. At still applies yung mga basic support and resistance mo. Dito na papasok 'yan. 'Di ba? Meaning, if you saw na ganyan pa lang yung position, meaning hindi pa siya totally nagbe-breakout, diyan ka na magkakaroon ng bias na, okay, I will just buy para ma-remove yung bias ko. I will just buy once nag-breakout na, which is a confirmation of number 1, price breakout from a previous resistance, applying your classical technical analysis plus the use of your MACD signal line. Diba? So, meaning, which is true enough, diba? Hindi rin siya tumuloy using your classical technical analysis. So, the expectation if that's the case is you expect it to consolidate, to go sideways. Kasi nga, applying your classical technical analysis, diba? Yan, no? Hindi pa talaga siya totally nagbe-breakout. Saan siya nag-breakout? So, if we apply it, makikita natin yan. As price moves ahead, diba? Okay. So, nagsa-sideways, you just keep on moving your trend lines, meaning you still have your resistance level. Diba? Andyan lang siya. Sobrang tagal na consolidation. Diba? Yun. So, this is now the perfect example na, number 1, you've done the classical technical analysis na tinuro sa InvestaUniversity. Diba? You have the basic support and resistance. Diba? And then, you apply now these different indicators. So, dito na papasok yung MACD mo. Meron ng additional bias na, this is the time for me to buy. Kasi, the price movement itself is telling me to buy, which is a breakout of the resistance level, plus, diba, plus your MACD line crossover to your signal line. So, yan na yun. Yan, no? Sakto. Bumuka or nag-expand na yung MACD line mo. So, ito yung way for you to strengthen yung bias. Diba? Application, dito na pumapasok yung application of your price movement and then application of your classical technical analysis plus the indicators using MACD. Okay? So next, let's now proceed naman dun sa identification ng overbought and oversold conditions. So it's very, very simple. So let's just say, ano ba yung merong mga capitulation? Ano ba yung merong mga talagang sumusuka na during March, which is ito yung start ng pandemic. Ano? Diba? Very important to note na once, application din, no? Kita mo yung application. Very important to note ng application ng support and resistance mo just using MACD lines, diba? Makikita mo dito na every time na bumababa siya sa ganyang level, yung tendency niya may chance na umaakyat. Diba? Meaning nag-oversold yung MACD line mo. Diba? And every time naman nag-overbought yung MACD line mo, doon naman siya nagre-reverse pababa. Diba? So makikita mo here. Yan, no? Diba? Diba? Kita mo yung application na pumapasok pa rin dito na yung support and resistance, diba? Kasi you have your resistance level using MACD line. You have your support level, which is an oversold condition, using MACD line as well. Diba? So makikita mo dyan, no? Diba? Oh, sorry. So you have your, ayan, no? Diba? And also, here. Yan. Diba? So, simple identification if it is an oversold, meaning sa baba, meaning here. Dito sa level na yan. Diba? So, meaning, every time na malalaglag dyan, the expectation is baka sagad na yung isang price. Meaning, sukang-suka na yung mga tao, tapos na sila magbenta. Nagka-capitulate na sila, di ba? So, dito na papasok yung oversold and overbought condition. Di ba? Meaning, if nasa tuktok na yung MACD line mo, baka sobrang hype na ng mga tao. Di ba? Meaning, sobrang hype na sobrang peak na ng mga tao. So usually kasi pag peak na yung mga tao, your emotions, di ba? Yung binabanggit ko kanina. Ito yung very important to note na when it comes to your mental preparation, ayaw mo yung masyado kang hype, ayaw mo yung masyadong peak yung emotions mo. Ayaw mo din na masyadong mababa yung emotions mo, meaning wala kang gana, malungkot ka. Gusto mo lang yung nasa gitna, di ba? Meaning manageable. Kasi usually, pag nasa taas na yung emotions mo, meaning nasa peak na yung emotions mo, ang next dyan is pababa na. Same goes dun sa saying natin na once sobrang lungkot mo na, diba? Once sobrang wala ka ng gana, yan na yung time na aakyat na yung isang price movement or dyan ka na suswertehin. Diba? Same with this. Same with stock market. Diba? Kaya yan yung ayaw natin eh. Na once yung tao sobrang hype na, kasi ang tendency niyan is bababa na. So you have your overbought condition, you have your oversold condition. So another example, your gold, let's say. Diba? So yan, oversold condition. Diba? You have your oversold condition and then nag-rally naman yung isang stock. So again, this is your MACD crossover, diba? Which is the first element of MACD indicator. Pangalawa is the overbought or oversold condition. So same what happened here. You have your overbought condition, diba? Plus your MACD crossover, which is ang nangyayari is pababa naman siya. Which is what happened here. Okay? So again, that's just simple identification of overbought and oversold condition plus the application of your classical technical analysis sa support and resistance. So very important yan. And kaya mapapansin mo, if medyo advanced trader ka na, once dumating ka na sa point na ganun, don't forget, wag mong kalimutan yung foundation ng stock market, which is the classical technical analysis, application ng patterns, di ba? Application ng support and resistance. Kasi even na once dumating ka na maging advanced trader ka na, you will still use it. Di ba? Kasi even looking at just the MACD as your indicator, you can identify na, okay, nandito na siya sa support level. So ang tendency nito, may bias na ako na I have high probability na sagad na siya and ang tendency niya is umakyat or malaglag na. Okay? And then, pangatlo sa component, which is the very important trend reversal is the divergences. Diba? So, divergences, we identify bullish divergence or bearish divergence. Meaning, your price movement is going down while your MACD indicator is pointing upward. Okay? So, example natin dito is, let's say, hanap tayo. Ano pwede? Here is pwede. Hindi. Hanap tayo mas pronounce. Macro Asia, let's say, yun, no? Yun. Diba? Here. Ayun. So, we can now easily identify the crossover plus the overbought oversold condition. Now, we identify the divergences. So, here is an example of your bullish divergence. So, later din, mas i-detail ko yung bullish and bearish divergences using relative strength index or RSI. But for the purpose of using MACD as your indicator, the price movement will continue to go down, diba? Meaning pababa siya. Pababa. Diba? However, your MACD line or your MACD indicator is starting to move up. Okay? As you can see here, hindi na siya lumusot doon sa previous support ng MACD mo. Yan, diba? Kita mo? Hindi na siya umabot. Meaning, nagkaroon ng divergences. Diba? So, meaning, meron ka ng divergence dyan, meaning meron ka ng low, pero hindi na siya dumating sa point na nag-lower low pa, nagkaroon ng higher low. Which is this one, the circle na one. Okay? Which is, again, a sign of a potential, okay? Not a reversal, but a potential na aakyat na siya. But for the purpose of example, this is an example of a divergence. Another example, let's say, hanap tayo sa ano, pagka, ayun, meron pala dito, nagda-divergences. Okay, here, I saw one. Yan. So, kanina, diniscuss natin, it's more of bullish divergence. Next naman is bearish divergence, which is this one. Yung presyo mo, umaakyat, di ba kanina, bumababa. Ito naman, umaakyat. So, you have here, di ba? You have here. And then, yung MACD as your indicator is pababa naman. So, a potential meaning once you identify na, meron ng divergences, meron ng bullish divergence and bearish divergence using MACD indicator, then your bias is pointing differently. Mag-iiba na yung bias mo kasi ang sinasabi niyan is nagmamature na. Not a 100% reversal, but a nagmamature na yung isang stock price mo. It's either going up or going down. Okay? So again, using MACD as your indicator, number one, use it for a crossover. Diba? Pangalawa, to identify your overbought or oversold conditions. Pangatlo, which is the very important one, is the identification of divergences, meaning bullish divergence and or bearish divergences. But again, don't use MACD as your main indicator and use MACD. Okay? Use MACD using daily or weekly time frame. Okay? Next now is, let me share my screen ulit for my presentation for the stop share. This one. Okay. So I hope everyone is now clear sa usage ng MACD as your indicator. Let's now proceed sa relative strength index or RSI. Okay. So basically, so may mga nalilito na at first, ano ba talaga gagamitin ko? MACD or RSI? Let's define it first, okay? So relative strength index is a momentum indicator, same sa MACD, 'di ba? For you to identify the magnitude of a recent price changes, okay? Again, magnitude of the recent price changes to evaluate the overbought or oversold condition of a specific stock. Okay? Again, yung relative strength index, ang computation niya is solely doon sa mga price movements niya. Meaning, is it a down day? Is it a gain day or a positive day? Kasi yung MACD, it's more of a computation of a exponential moving averages. Okay? For relative strength index, very important to note na ang computation niya is doon sa mga positive or yung mga gain days. And then, doon naman minus doon sa mga negative days mo habang gumagalaw isang stock prices. Okay? Again, this is a magnitude of the recent price changes. Ano ba yung mga very important to note when it comes to RSI? Number one is for you to identify, using RSI pala, meron niyang 100% to quantify your relative strength index. You need to use the 0 level and then 100% level. And para hindi na kayo mas mahirapan, we just use relative strength index for identification ng overbought, which is an equivalent to 70%, and oversold condition, which is an equivalent of 30%. So, okay. So nilagay ko din dito na the indicator will rise as the number and size of positive closes increase. Diba? Ito yung sinasabi ko when it comes to computation. And then it will fall as the number and size of the losses increases. So meron din akong mga pinakita dyan na example na may mga circle lines. This is your overbought. Diba? You have your oversold condition. Another one is your overbought condition, oversold, and then oversold. So basically, makikita mo dyan na once makita mo na nag-peak na, nag-overbought na yung isang stock, umabot sa 70 to 100% level na yung isang stock using RSI as your indicator, then your bias will now change. Magre-reverse na siya. Okay? So let's now proceed to the next slide. So, very important to note, and ito yung tinuturo namin sa Open Journal. No? Ito yung golden nugget. What we call a golden nugget na ginagawa namin sa Open Journal. Diba? Kasi we are heavy. Diba? Meron kaming ginagawa sa Open Journal na different entry points. And you using our first entry, which is part of the golden nugget in Open Journal, is the bullish divergences and bearish divergences. Okay? Ito yung binabanggit ko rin kanina using the MACD as your indicator. Kasi hindi ito 100% na magre-reverse na yung trend. Meaning uptrend, pababa na yung trend. It's just signaling na nagmamature na yung isang trend. Okay? So let me just give you an example. Let me share my screen ulit using the charts. So example is now. Let's say now. So let's remove the MACD as our indicator and now put in relative strength index. Yan. Okay, doon tayo sa mga recent prices na. So ito hindi clear. At least what you can see here is an oversold condition. Diba? However, the use of bullish divergences is hindi clear at this level. Diba? Hindi sobrang pronounced. So hanap tayo ng mas pronounced is Security Bank. Recent move here. So, yan. Itong move na to. Yan, sakto. Okay? Diba, identification natin kanina, it's more of bullish divergence. Meaning yung bullish divergence, yung presyo nalalaglag. And then yung indicator mo using RSI is hindi na siya nag-lower low. Hindi na siya lumusot dun sa previous low. Meaning, as an example, is this one. This, diba? Lumusot siya sa support using your price movement itself. However, diba? Hindi na siya lumusot. It's either nag-hold what we call a hidden or a Class B bullish divergences, diba? And nag-reverse na yung isang stock. Another one is, ano ba meron? Macro Asia, let's say. Yan. Diba? Kita mo yung presyo mo nalalaglag. And even here, patuloy na nalalaglag. Diba? However, your relative strength index as an indicator is hindi na siya nalalaglag. Hindi na siya lumulusot dun sa mga previous levels. We have here, this is what we call a hidden or a Class B, Class C divergences. Pero yung mas pronounced is this one. Diba? Mas pronounced is that one. Diba? Meaning, yung presyo mo, nalaglag na naman sa support, like what happened here. However, your MACD line, your relative strength index line is hindi na siya nag-lower low. Meaning nagkaroon na ng divergences. Yan. Diba? And that's what we call a bullish divergence. Now let's now proceed naman doon sa bearish divergence. Bullish divergences meaning paakyat na isang presyo Bearish divergence naman is pababa na yung isang presyo. Meaning, nagmamature na yung isang trend. Now, example, ano ba meron ako sa watch list? May mga bloom. Let's say, hanap tayo sa bloom. Here. Perfect. Diba? You have your bearish divergence here using RSI. You have your, kita mo? Meaning, yung purpose mo, yung main purpose nito is dapat kasi nag-shoot up to eh. Diba? Meaning, umakyat yan. However, yung presyo mo, umakyat, nagkaroon pa ng higher high. However, yung relative strength index indicator mo is nagkaroon na ng high and then lower high. And that's what we call a bearish divergence. Meaning, nag-mature na yung trend mo. May potential. Potential, okay? Potential only. Potential mag-reverse pababa. And what happened is, nalaglag na. Okay? So, ASEN, let's see kung meron. I think, meron dito mga invalidation eh. Ito muna. Ito muna. Para mas clear, mas pronounced. Diba? Kita mo yung trend mo, nagmamature. Going up. Diba? Kita mo yung maturation cycle niyan. Kita mo yung trend niyan. Diba? At least, once, ayan po, you have here, pero yung RSI mo as your indicators, hindi na siya nag-overshoot pataas. Nagkakaroon ng resistance level dun sa condition niya. Yan o. And that is what happened kung bakit nalaglag ng ilang percent yan. Diba? 30% yung ACE Energy Corporation. So again, that's the usage of your bullish divergences and bearish divergences using relative strength index. So basically, mas malakas siya. Same with usage ng MACD. Mas malakas siya kapag ginamitan mo siya using your weekly or daily time frame. So, as an example, di ba? Tingnan natin itong MAC. I think ito yung latest na merong weekly divergences eh. Ayan, no? Yung tech din ata before. Hindi siya natuloy. Pero at least yan, malakas yan. That's a, diba? Oh, that's 100% pala. Just using, diba? You have your bullish divergence. Nagre-reverse na yung trend. Diba? You have your relative strength index na hindi na nalalaglag, hindi na lumulusot. And then, lakas. And this is using weekly. So, the expectation is, the longer the time frame na ginamit mo, and then merong bullish divergence using MACD or relative strength index, mas malakas siya. Diba? Mas malakas siya, lalo na pag monthly or even weekly. So, the question now is, kanina, do we suggest to use MACD in lower time frame? Syempre, hindi, diba? However, using relative strength index as your indicator, you can use it in multiple time frames, diba? If medyo naging advanced ka na, after this InvestaUniversity, medyo advanced ka na, you can use it in the lower time frame, meaning you can now use it using 1 hour, diba? Using 1 hour. You can also use it using 30 minutes, using 15 minutes, and using 5 minutes. Syempre, the expectation, once you go to a lower time frame, mas volatile, mas malikot na siya. Diba? Kaya sinasabi ko na if hindi ka makaka-focus solely, diba, sa market, and since meron kang ginagawa, meron kang corporate job, just focus on the weekly or daily time frame para hindi wala masyadong headache, diba, at the end of the day. However, if you really want to push, diba, you trade for a living, then dito na papasok yung multiple time frame. Dito na papasok yung paggamit mo ng mga lower time frames, like 30, 15, and 5 minutes, using using relative strength index to identify your, again, bullish divergences, pagka trend reversal pataas, and pangalawa, using bearish divergences, trend reversal naman pababa. Okay? I hope that is clear. So again, I will now stop share.
But teka, balik mo sa chart, may question ako.
Okay. Sige.
So, pwede mo ba ibalik sa ACE-N?
ASEN.
Yung question ko lang is, when we see, right, a bull, yung, di ba, nag-drawing ka dun sa example, sa,
Yeah.
balik natin doon. So, when we see kagad, may bull div, tapos may bear div, or bear div, should it be acted upon agad? Meaning, if may position ka, tapos kita mo bear div, wala na to, benta na kaagad. Dapat ba ganun?
Nice.
Or
Nice
should we
question.
wait for confirmation somehow? Paano ba
Agree.
yun?
Yes, good question, no? So, ito lagi yung same with MACD. Pag merong crossover, di ba? Pag may MACD crossover pababa or paakyat, hindi yan yung trend reversal na. Kaya paulit-ulit ako kanina sinasabi na it's very important to note na it's just a bias. It's just a bias na nagmamature na yung trend. So, however, dito na ulit papasok yung application ng classical technical analysis mo. Meaning your basic support and resistance. Or even, kapag ka medyo advanced ka na, yung trail stop mo. Kasi from this case, di ba? From this case, meaning, ganito yan eh. Yung ginagawa namin sa Open Journal, once we saw na meron ng bearish divergences, okay, nakabili ka, bullish divergences, once we saw na meron ng bearish divergences, meaning kailangan nakatingin ka na. Mentally prepared ka na. Mental preparation is a key sa trading natin, di ba? So very important na once you saw the bearish divergence is kailangan nakatingin ka na and you apply your trail stop or you apply your support. Kasi once lumusot, number one, selling mo is number one, bearish divergence. Pangalawa, okay? Kasi pag meron bearish divergence, nakatingin ka pa lang eh. Okay, nakatingin ka na, umaakit yung stock, meron ng bearish divergences, meaning nagmamature na. Mentally prepared ka na nagmamature na siya. The question is, saan ako magbebenta? Should I sell it agad? No, of course. Dito na papasok yung sinasabi ko kanina na application ng technical analysis. Once lumusot sa support, like what happened here, diba? Once lumusot sa basic support mo at this level, yan o, once lumusot sa basic support mo, then that's the time you need to cut your position or take profit na lahat. You have your number one, bearish divergence. Pangalawa, you have your support lumusot na or na-broken na. Diba? Or nabasag na. Which is true enough and a fact na nalaglag yung isang presyo. So, dyan na papasok na number one, when it comes to selling, nakatingin ka na pagka meron ka nang nakitang bearish divergence or bullish divergence. However, price itself will confirm it. Diba? Once lumusot sa support, once lumusot sa resistance, then that's the time na kailangan mo na mag-execute. Kailangan ka nang bumili ng first tranche or even 20% allocation depende sa mga tranches mo, different tranches mo. Okay? So, kita mo, no? Using MACD, using relative strength, it is still very important. Do not forget, diba, the application of your support and resistance, which is, again, the foundation of classical technical analysis. Okay, I hope, guys, it's clear. So, let's now proceed naman dun sa use ng ADX. ADX. Okay? Oops. I'm not sure my screen. So guys, no, if you're wondering, bro Matt, ano ba talaga dapat gagamitin namin? We already know how to use the volume. We already know how to use the basic patterns, how to identify the basic support and resistance. Ano ba talaga unahin namin? Should I use MACD? Should I use relative strength index? Actually, when I'm starting out, I'm using MACD. Diba? Kasi mas madaling makita eh. Mas madaling makita. And when it comes to buying and selling, alam mo kagad na once mayroong crossover, na, it's time for me to buy. It's time for me to sell. It's identification of overbought, oversold condition. And then meron din different divergences. However, as I go along sa trading journey ko, mas napansin ko, syempre medyo nagiging advanced ka na, mas napansin ko na when it comes to trading, not investing guys not investing. Kasi if you're just investing, just use MACD. Diba? Just use MACD. If your time horizon is 1, 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years, just use MACD para hindi nasakit sa ulo. Pero however, like me na medyo swing trader, I use relative strength index as my main indicator. Diba? Kasi mas nakikita ko yung price movement eh. I'm not very dependent on the exponential moving averages. Diba? Yung mga 20, 50, 100, 200 day. Kasi relative strength index, it's more of sabi ko nga kanina, it's more of the price movement eh. The gains, the negative, the losses of the price movements. However, the MACD measures between the two EMAs, di ba? Or the exponential moving averages. So again, nakadepende ka na naman sa indicator. Meaning the 12-day exponential moving averages plus the 26-day exponential moving averages. So again, it's very important, diba? Both are very important, pero I suggest try using first MACD as your indicator, lalo na you're just starting out, para hindi ka analysis paralysis. Okay? But make sure na if you're using MACD, just focus on or banggain mo siya, yung combination mo, banggain mo sa moving averages mo, your exponential plus MACD. If you're just using RSI, mas okay na price movement, classical technical analysis, volume, diba? Volume plus your relative strength index. I hope that is clear. I hope mas nagkaroon ng linaw yung use ng MACD and relative strength index. Now let's proceed to the ADX or average directional index or ADX, okay? So basically, ADX, dito na tayo papasok sa medyo komplikado. Hindi na medyo komplikado, pero ito na usually ginagamit ng medyo advanced trader eh. Kasi mas makikita mo na dito na, sabi ko nga dito, trading in the direction of a strong trend. Diba? Reduces risk and increases profit potential. Kasi syempre, dito na pumapasok yung mga watch list natin na you have 10 watch list, di ba? Okay, after screening 300 stocks sa local market, and then nakita mo merong 10, merong 15 na pumasok sa watch list mo na within your strategies. The question now is, should I buy all? Syempre hindi. Di ba? Kasi you only have 100%. Di ba? Wala ka namang 1,000% when it comes to your buying or cash balance, di ba? Dito na pumapasok yung average directional index or ADX kasi it is being used to determine when the price is trending. Okay? Meaning it's either trending paakyat or pababa. Trending strongly, di ba? In many cases, it is the ultimate, di ba? It is the ultimate trend indicator. Dito na pumapasok na once you saw mas mataas yung ADX mo, the potential is mas mabilis siyang tatakbo. Di ba? It's either paakyat or pababa. Let's say, for example, dito sa graph na to, using dito. Di ba? As you can see, itong ADX mo is paakyat, di ba? Sorry, itong ADX mo is starting to move up, di ba? This is your oversold condition sa baba. Ito starting to move up and you can see yung stock prices mo starting to move up also. Di ba? So meaning yung strength ng isang stock, nagmo-momentum na siya, nagte-trending na siya paakyat. Now, let's say, for example, kabaliktaran naman yan, which is later papakita ko as an example. So, next slide. So next slide is when it comes to ADX then, so what I'm showing here is just a identification of the DMI plus or the directional moving index, di ba? Positive, and then meron din tayong negative. For example, let's say dito sa positive, yung positive DMI ko, okay? Yung positive, same ng MACD, merong red line and blue line. So yung MACD, yung DMI positive ko is the blue line, the negative DMI ko is the red line. Okay? And then my ADX is the red line. So the black line. So makikita mo, every time na yung ADX mo starting to move up, and then yung blue line mo, which the positive DMI, starting to cross over doon sa signal line mo or doon sa negative DMI mo. Tapos plus na umaakyat na yung ADX mo, your prices or yung price movement mo starting to move up also. 'Di ba? Sometimes it is being used as an accumulation or distribution. So later papakita ko 'yan. Ito yung mga gusto kong ito yung indicator na ginagamit ko for for me to identify if it is a capitulation na rin, 'di ba? Capitulation strategy and what we are teaching sa Open Journal as well. So how we quantify yung ADX? So sabi ko nga syempre identification of trend to 'di ba? Ayaw natin yung tipong tulog, 'di ba? Kaya mapapansin mo may sinasabi na ay lipat ko na lang itong binili ko dito sa stock na to kasi mas nagtitrend 'Di ba? You have your 15 watch list and then that's the time you have pag meron ka ng 15 watch list, syempre kailangan mo na i-drill down into 5 into 3. So dito na papasok yung ADX. Kung ano ba yung mas may trending? Ano ba yung mas strong? 'Di ba? So how do you quantify the ADX or the average directional index? So ADX values help traders identify the strongest and most profitable trends to trade. So the values are the following. So we have here 0 to 25, which is 0 to 25, it's more of a weak trend. Meaning talagang the expectation, if 0 to 25, talagang matutulog muna to for 2 to 3 weeks to 1 month. The expectation is may mga limbo trades kang mangyayari. Ano yung limbo trades? Yung mga tipong uptrend, uptick lang, na uptick, merong volume, may onting volume, nagkaroon ng green candle, uptick, and then the next day, nag-sideways na naman, and the following days, nag-sideways na naman. Because the trend is weak. Diba? Kasi yung ADX niya is mababa, below 25. Meron dyan mga 15 lang, mga 10. So, yan yung important to note. So, 25 to 50 is a strong trend. Ito yung mga filter natin Yung filter mo, very important one na kailangan laging 25 or 30, greater than 25 or greater than 30. Para yung trend mo, paakyat lang, meaning nagmo-momentum na siya. Mas okay syempre kapag kayong trend mo 50 or 75. Very strong trend. 75 to 100, extremely strong trend pagka umaakyat yung isang presyo. Kabaliktaran naman yan. If ever, syempre, pag nalalaglag yung presyo, di ba? Meaning, mas pangit kapag yung presyo mo pababa, pero yung trend mo or yung ADX mo pataas. Kasi ang ibig sabihin niya, nagka-capitulate sila. Di ba? Meaning, may mga nagbabato. Meaning, yung strength ng isang presyo pababa, mas malakas. Same goes naman kapag nalalaglag yung presyo, 'di ba? Pero yung ADX mo is mababa. Ibig sabihin, wala pang masyadong nagbebenta or meaning wala pang masyadong nagka-capitulate. Okay? So let's now proceed to this example. So example is, so let me stop share ulit and proceed sa chart ulit. Okay, so again, let's remove the relative strength index and put in the ADX. ADX. DMI na lang. Okay. So, para hindi mas magulo muna, is the ADX first. Okay? So, I will change this to black para mas kita. Okay. So, kanina binabanggit ko syempre nagka-capitulate, 'di ba? Yung mga presyo, meaning ayaw natin if yung trend mo, yung presyo mo is pababa, pero yung ADX mo is paakyat. Kasi ibig sabihin lang niya, merong nagka-capitulate here, 'di ba? Pero yung presyo mo yan, no? It's either umaakyat, umaakyat, umaakyat. Same goes here. What happened dun sa last March, 'di ba? Yan, no? Kakapitulate. Yan, no? Capitulation. So, tawag namin dyan is capitulation strategy. 'Di ba? Yung ADX mo, paakyat ng paakyat, eh, oh. Pero yung presyo mo pababa. So, kailangan nakatingin ka rin dyan when it comes to buying. 'Di ba? That's the use of ADX once pababa yung market. Yung meaning pababa yung isang presyo kasi nga yung strength niya mas malakas. So, let's say, Ayala Land, ito yung mga blue chip, yan, no? Diba? Nagkakapitulate, diba? Tingnan mo yung trend mo. That's above 30, 20, 25, 30, diba? 40, umaabot. And same goes with other blue chip, let's say, GT Cap, diba? Kita mo? Yung trend mo, this is reverse naman, ha? So, later I will discuss yung yung pagka-umaakit naman. So again, yes, there's still an opportunity once you saw this kind of move, meaning pababa yung presyo pero yung ADX mo pataas. So same goes with the overbought and oversold condition. Once you saw na overbought na siya, meaning sukang-suka na yung mga tao, di ba? Sukang-suka na yung mga tao, kailangan nakatingin ka na rin dyan. Kasi, syempre, pag sukang-suka na yung mga tao, walang choice yan kundi umakyat na, di ba? So kung sukang-suka na yan, magko-consolidate lang yan. And once you identify, di ba, na merong bullish divergences coming from below, plus your ADX starting to die down from the above, from 50, 60, 70, 100 level, plus merong bullish divergences using relative strength index, dito ka na dapat nakatingin. Di ba? Meaning nagre-reverse na. Ito na yung high chance mo na magre-reverse na pataas isang stock, meaning tapos na sumuka yung mga nagbebenta. Tapos na magbenta yung mga sellers. Okay? So, example naman is pagka-packet naman yung isang presyo, meaning nagmo-momentum na siya. So, let's say, ano ba yung mga nag-momentum recently? Now, diba? Dito wala akong hawak. Yan, no? Kita mo, yung trend mo, after, diba? After a trend reversal, diba? After a strong ADX na meaning sumuka na yung mga tao, diba? Sumuka na yung mga tao. Ang next naman is nagre-reverse naman siya paakit. Nagcapitulate na yung mga tao, diba? So next naman, so what we call, this is how we quantify na, diba? Yung using ADX. Kasi makikita mo dyan na your ADX starting to move up, diba? Starting to move. Yan, no? Starting to move. So same again, same application ng support classical technical analysis. Your ADX stays above 20, which is what we call, nasabi natin, di ba? Pag 0 to 25, absent or weak trend. Pag 25 to 50, strong trend. 50 to 75 is very strong trend. 75 to 100 is extremely strong trend. So what we saw here is, yan. Diba? Nagtitrending siya. Umaakyat all the way to 41. Diba? To 40 level, goes back down. Pero makikita mo, hindi na siya bumabalik, hindi na siya lumulusot doon sa previous support mo na using ADX. Diba? Which is this one. Hindi na siya lumulusot doon. As you can see, nagmo-momentum siya. And what happened? Diba? You still have the strong trend. Kaya maraming volume. Same what happened to ASIN na until now hindi nalalaglag. Diba? Kasi your ADX is still above. That's still strong, which is above 30. Diba? 35. So dito nag-capitulate. Diba? After capitulation, you have your ADX which is above while the price is moving down. Now the next step to look at is, when do I buy? Diba? When do I buy? So of course, once you saw a bullish divergences, and then once you saw plus, kailangan nakatingin ka na once ADX starting to pick up. Meaning umaakit na siya over 25, greater than 25, greater than 30 level. So kita mo yung ADX mo is, pansin mo kaya ito mabilis eh. Kaya ito mabilis na. Because of your ADX, nandiyan na sa tuktok, umaakit na siya, starting to pick up. So, for example, tingnan mo tong bloom. Di ba? Bakit mabagal? Kasi, mabagal siya kasi your ADX is just below 25 or 30. Di ba? That's the expectation. Same what happened to, let's say, ano tong DMC. Tingnan natin. You know, DMC is starting to pick up. Di ba? You have your ADX, you have your support here. You know. So at least yung current ADX mo is strong, which is above 25 and nagre-range siya to 30 level. 25, 30, 40. Diba? And then let's say DNL. You know, DNL is starting to pick up also. Diba? You have your support here. Application ng support and resistance mo. So at least at this level, makikita mo na, you know, your ADX starting to pick up also, which is already above 25 level. And your price movement, parang merong nangyayari. Diba? Just looking at the price, just using ADX as your indicator, makikita mo na, there is something here. Diba? There is something here na hindi natin alam. Always remember na price moves ahead of fundamentals. And kaya meron yan sa InvestaUniversity na focus first on price before any indicators. Diba? So, next is, for example, let's say Metrobank. Diba? Kita mo kaya medyo mabagal coming from below. Medyo mabagal siya kasi your ADX is below 20, meaning weak. Diba? Mahina. Tingnan natin MM. See? Kaya hindi siya tumutuloy, oh. Hindi rin siya tumuloy. Because your ADX is still on the weaker hands, on the weaker level, still below 25 level. Usually, if yan nag-breakout na, if yan starting to, ang mangyayari dyan, potential, starting to move that way, breakout, your ADX will start to move. Diba? Nagsa-sideways dyan at that level. And then once nag-pick up to 20 level, sasabayan dito, may potential sumabayan sa breakout netong resistance level na yan. Again, application of your classical technical analysis. Breakout, your ADX breakout also, and then your 25 level ADX will shoot up also. Let's say MWC. See, napansin mo, your ADX for MWC, bakit ang lakas niya? Kasi naglalaro na siya sa ganyang level eh, which is above your 25 level. This is your oversold condition. You have your 25 level here, di ba? 25 level here. So kaya expectation is, you know, starting to pick up, di ba? Pansin mo, sabay yan, no? Halos almost the same. Once nag-breakout, your ADX starting to move also. Kasi nga nagmo-momentum na siya, nagte-trending na siya. Yun yung mga gusto natin. You have your 15 watch list, drill it down to 3-5 watch list, di ba? Using ADX para makita mo kung ano yung mas magte-trend, mas mabilis aakyat. Diba? Para hindi yung tipong nag-aantay ka sa wala, na ang tagal naman nito, nata-time stop ka kasi itong stock na to, ang bilis umakyat. The reason behind this is ADX. Diba? Mas nagte-trending yung stock mo. Meron mga buyers willing to buy the stock. Same with goes here. Diba? SCC na medyo tulog. SMC. Diba? SMC, kikita mo already starting to pick up. The question is, will this break out? your resistance level. You have your support here. Diba? You have your support here. Diba? You also have your support here. The question now is, once ba nag-consolidate dyan, nag-pick up dyan, and then saka to mag-pick up. So that's a question, which is sakto. If you apply the ADX, if nag-breakout dyan, application again, your classical technical analysis, paulit-ulit ako, break of your resistance level, using your price movement plus your ADX, mag-shoot up din to 25 to a higher level. So again, that's the use of, let me share my screen. That's the use, or that's how you quantify your average directional index or ADX to identify how weak, how strong is the trend. Very important to note na if you have multiple watch lists, just focus doon sa mas malakas na trend. Meaning just focus on the greater than 25 ADX rather than doon sa mga 15, 20 ADX, di ba? Kasi at the current market level sa Philippine stock market, bibihira ka makikita ng parang wala pang 10 yung mga above 25 level na ADX and just focus on it. Diba? Just focus on it kasi mas nagte-trending siya. Okay? So, let me know if you have any questions sa ADX or even sa relative strength index or even sa MACD. Okay? If wala, guys, syempre, para sa Investagrams community, meron akong bonus. Diba? Bonus indicator para sa inyo. We already know what, so let me summarize. We already know what's the importance of MACD. Diba? What's the importance of MACD? Basically, the importance of MACD as an indicator is number one, very important to note na crossovers, diba? Once nag-crossover yung line mo versus your signal line. Number two is for you to identify the overbought or the resistance level or the oversold condition or the support level. And then pangatlo, the use of bullish or bearish divergences using MACD as your indicator. Again, very effective yung MACD using weekly or daily time frame. Do not use it on the lower time frame, 1 hour, 30, 15, 5 minutes kasi hindi siya effective. Next naman is the relative strength index. Very important to note that your relative strength index, we measure it for the magnitude of the recent price changes, diba? To identify the overbought condition or the overbought or oversold condition. Meaning, during the overbought condition, relative strength index or your RSI starting to move at 70 to 100% level, while oversold is equivalent to 30% level or below. Okay? We also taught you how to identify easily the bullish and bearish divergences. Meaning, bullish divergences or bearish divergences is not 100% sign na it's time for you to sell or even sign for you to buy. Okay? It's just a sign na nagmamature na yung isang trend. Nagmamature na yung mga stock prices. And this time, you keep your eyes open and put it in your watch list. Once you saw a bullish divergences, di ba? Kita mo na and malapit ka nang bumili. Same goes when it comes to selling. Once you identify a bearish divergences using RSI as your indicator, you have your bearish divergences as your selling signal. Okay, that's one. Pangalawa is you identify your classical technical analysis. Once lumusot sa support level, then that's the time you need to sell all. Okay? Next naman, identification ng average directional index or ADX, di ba? Which is, we measure it to identify if the stock or the price is trending strongly. So we quantify it using 0 to 100 level. Meaning if 0 to 25 level, we expect it to be weak. Meaning we expect it to go sideways. Yes, may mga limbo, may mga uptick. However, the expectation is pagkakaroon ng mga consolidation sideways pattern. So when it comes to qualification sa watchlist natin using ADX as your indicator, we focus dun sa greater than 25 or greater than 30 and above. Diba? Okay, so again, this is the bonus, diba, na iniintay din ni Toma Trader for you guys.
May pa-bonus din, syempre, pag si Boss Matt from Open Journal.
Yes. So again, ito yung tinuro namin sa Open Journal, diba? On balance volume for you to identify. It is a technical trading momentum indicator that uses volume flow. Kung kanina MACD, it's more of moving averages. Relative strength index uses price movement. ADX uses the strength of the index, how weak, how strong the price is. Ito naman, nakadepende naman siya sa volume. Meaning, once makita mo tong on-balance volume, diba, you can easily, pag nakita mo kaagad na nagko-consolidate siya above, makikita mo, this is a sign of distribution. This is a sign of accumulation. Okay? Just put an example. We'll just put an example yung on-balance volume. So sinabi ko nga dito as a bias, di ba? As a bias, when volume increases sharply without a significant change in the stock price, the price will eventually jump upward or fall down. So like what happened here sa tech, di ba? Kita mo, etong part na to na pababa, yung presyo na yan, dyan nag-accumulate yung mga foreigner. Merong foreign inflow dyan eh, di ba? Merong foreign inflow dyan. However, if you saw your OBV or your on-balance volume is nandyan lang sa tuktok. Meaning, usually ang nangyayari dyan is hindi natin alam kung accumulation or distribution. However, looking at the stock prices, ano nangyari? It's more of a distribution. Diba? They continue to distribute while the prices, diba, move pababa. So, let's just give you an example. So, let me share my screen. So, again, that's a bonus. That's on-balance volume for you to easily identify if the stock is on accumulation or distribution. So, ano ba yung merong mga accumulation? Tingnan natin sa blue. Ano ba yung merong... Dito mo rin mapapansin, guys, investor community na if merong insider na nag-accumulate ng isang stock. Diba? So, as you can see here, so makikita mo yung on-balance volume mo at this level. So, makikita mo in a nutshell na merong nag-accumulate. Kasi the price is starting to move higher. And your OBV starting to move higher also. Unlike yung sa tech kanina, di ba? Yung tech kanina is more of pababa, pero yung OBV mo, nasa tuktok lang. Di ba? Kasi it's an computation nito, it's more of a volume eh. So makikita mo meron nag-accumulate. So good to know na meron nag-accumulate sa blue. Now let's say sa ASEN. Let's see sa ASEN. You know, di ba? Kita mo? Just looking at the on-balance volume, meaning pare-parehong brokerage yung nag-accumulate when it comes to their volume. Well, like for example, pare-parehong COL, pare-parehong Deutsche, pare-parehong CLSA. Diyan nakadepende yung computation ng on-balance volume eh. Volume of the brokerage na nag-accumulate or bumibili or nagbebenta. So makikita mo, at this level, meron pa ring mga nag-accumulate. Diba? Meron pa ring mga nag-accumulate dyan sa level na yan. However, my concern is, pag nangyaring pababa to, diba, bumaba all the way here sa 240 or even here. Pero yung on-balance volume mo nandyan lang, then we start to think, oy, parang meron ng distribution to ah. Parang hindi na accumulation. Okay? However, if ever yung presyo mo is nandyan lang, okay, let me remove this. If yung presyo mo is nandyan lang sa part na yan, naglalaro dyan sa part na yan, and yung OBV mo is nandyan lang din sa level na yan, your bias mentally, you're prepared na, merong nag-accumulate. Diba? So, meron nag-accumulate. So, ano bang example? Let's say dito. Yan, no? Same with dito. Diba? Same with dito. Meron bang accumulation na nangyayari here? At this level? Diba? Hindi natin masabi kasi itong at this level, hindi naman siya totally same with ASEN eh. Parang ito, it just going sideways. Diba? Nagpipick up lang siya. So the question now is it accumulation or distribution? That's we don't know. So another example is, tingnan natin DNL. Ito wala. See? Diba? Kita mo dito walang accumulation even distribution kasi medyo malikot siya eh. Diba? Medyo malikot yung trend, yung OBV niya. Unlike here kanina sa Bloom, na very consistent, na nandun lang sa tuktok. So, alam mo merong nag-accumulate. Ano pa ba example ng merong mga accumulation? Tingnan natin, Sinaw. Tingnan natin to. Wala. Diba? Ito alam mong ano eh, puro mga traders lang eh. And then you can see the OBV, sobrang pangit. So makita mo, walang accumulation. Ang nangyari lang dyan is, ang expectation natin, kung this is legit, na merong accumulation, the expectation is, dapat ganyan lang yan. Diba? And then your OBV will just go sideways habang nasa taas. However, what happened to Now Corporation using OBV as an indicator? Nag-shoot down pa baba. So meaning, the volume, walang nag-accumulate, puro mga traders may hawak. Diba? So let's show another example. Mga blue chip. Ano ba pwede example? Ali. This one also wala. Diba? So meaning, walang accumulation na nangyayari sa pare-parehong brokerage. Same with this one. Sa FLI. Tingnan natin. Same with this. Ano ba yung merong mga foreign institution, DMC, MY, tingnan natin. Yun, no? Diba? Kita mo sa MY, kita mo na your price starting to move, diba? Starting to move. And your OBV, diba? Your OBV is nandun lang. So meaning, you can say that this is a potential accumulation ng mga insider. So ano ba may mga share buyback? Ayan no, Mega World. Diba? Kita mo yung OBV niya nasa taas. However, it started to move down. Bakit? That's we don't know. Pero at least at this level, merong nag-accumulate. Diba? Merong nag-accumulate at that level ng mga same brokerage. So, FLI, ano yung kanina? Merong mga buyback. Ito, EMP. Emperador. Diba? Kita mo yan? You know? Okay. Very good example. Sakto. What this telling us? Ano sa tingin niyo yan? What happened here? This is a potential, diba? Signs of distribution. Diba? Your on-balance volume at this level is nasa taas. Diba? Meaning, that's a sign of accumulation. Which is true enough, the insider, diba? Hindi natin alam kung sino man yun, but at least mentally, alam natin na merong insider na nag-accumulate. Even the stock prices are going sideways. Biglang may nagkaroon ng news yan, di ba? May include siya sa MSCI changes if I'm not mistaken. And then, Celon News, di ba? Nagkaroon ng selling. So this is at least bad for me. It seems the insider started distributing at this level, and it seems I don't know if it is ongoing, but the on-balance volume looks very weak, diba? Very skeptic. Ano pa yung merong mga tech? Tingnan natin. Ito, wala na. Patay na to. Eh. Diba? They distributed yung shares nila. So, nung na-distribute na nila, umakyat kasi wala nang malaking seller. Diba? Kaya yung umakyat kasi ang bigat ng seller dito eh. Which is through distribution. Diba? And then nilaglag. Ito, rally lang talaga to. Itong part na to. And then starting to move down na. Diba? So again, that's it for the on-balance volume. Like I mentioned kanina, this is a bonus for the Investa community, InvestaUniversity. Diba? This is on-balance volume is just a way for you to identify if there's an insider accumulating, there's an insider distributing their shares. Diba? Again, I hope marami kayo natutunan when it comes to, or I hope you can take advantage the use of MACD, Relative Strength Index, or RSI. Pangatlo is ADX, or what we call the very important one, di ba? Indicator when it comes to trading para ma-identify natin yung momentum, yung strength ng isang stock. And our bonus is the on-balance volume, or OBV. For you can easily identify if there is an insider accumulating or distributing. So again, thank you for this session. I hope you learn a lot.
Matt, baka ko ito paalisin. I'm sure marami kasi yung mga beginners na pinapanood tong lesson na to. Right? And I'm sure tatanong sila, ano yung open journal? Can you give a short introduction for everyone na maybe baguhan pa lang sa trading? Kung ano nga ba yung open journal?
So, community, it is a subscription-based community na ginagawa namin ni Javi, being a co-founder. So what we are teaching in Open Journal is a combination of classical technical analysis, diba, plus an Elliott wave bias. It is one way for us to have an edge in the market. In Open Journal, we have a lot of video modules. We have a total of, if I'm not mistaken, our video modules have a total of mga 6-7 hours of video modules. That's one. We also have live and online town halls for Open Journal. We also have coaching sessions. We also have charting sessions. So basically, lahat ng kailangan ng traders, bago ka man, mid-level ka man, medyo expert ka na, andito na lahat sa Open Journal. So again, feel free to visit, feel free to ask if you have questions for Open Journal. And for me, of course. That's it.
So Matt, thanks again for the time. And to all InvestaUniversity students, comment naman below na salamat kay Matt and salamat sa Open Journal.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Matt.
So that's it for our first part of the indicator series from Paolo and Matt from Open Journal. So ngayon, gets na natin yung volume, yung RSI, yung moving averages, yung MACD, ADX, at tinuruan pa tayo ng OBV from Matt Flores. No? So I hope you guys are excited for the next part. And kita-kits mga ka-Investa U. Of course, kung hindi ka pa Investa U student, it's not too late to enroll. Enrollment is always open.
InvestaUniversity is an open U for you. Kaya, we made the enrollment super easy. Bilang ka lang ng 1, 2, 3. 1. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. All InvestaU videos will be uploaded here and also in InvestaLearn. 2. Like and follow our Facebook account. 3. Join our exclusive Investa group. I-search mo lang ang InvestaUniversity group in our platform. Then click Join. Read our short love letter for you and click Agree. Ngayon, estudyante ka na ng InvestaU. Ganun lang, super dali.